Oh, look at my hair.
Look at her. She's crazy.
Whee!
She's like a silly little club girl.
Oh my God, that's me. Wake up in the morning feeling like P. Diddy.
What an obscure reference now.
What do you mean? Isn't that relevant? Hi, my name's Christine. How are you, Em?
And I'm a victim of being a millennial.
Oh, I thought you were going to say, and I'm a victim of Christine. I was
Oh,
like, yes.
and I'm Em, a victim of whatever
That's
this
correct.
Sunday show is. Yes. How are you, Christine? Are you feeling okay today?
No. Thank you for asking. I'm feeling like trash.
Yeah.
Or as I've said through Tears to Blaze, Trizash so many times now that he's like not fazed by it.
Was it in tears of joy and laughter?
No,
because that's
deep pain, deep-seated pain.
To be fair, I would have been in tears of laughter if you were hospitalized calling yourself Trizash.
Yeah, to be fair, Blaze did not find it. He did not laugh. He was more concerned because I was not finding my own jokes funny. And I think that's when he gets really worried.
Sure. Yeah. When you're not the only one laughing anymore and it's just silent. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it's just silent in my house. There's no laughter.
Do you want to talk about what happened, or you want to keep it vague, or
absolutely. Let's fucking go, guys. I have an illness. You all know this already. It's called Crohn's disease. Some of you have it too. And some of you found out you have it. As the podcast has been going and have messaged me about it. It looks like Em is frozen. Uh-oh.
All right, I'm here.
Oh, there you are. You're back.
No, I just tried to escape, actually, and I couldn't get away. That's all.
You tried so hard, though. I thought you made it. Oh, boy. Anyway, so I had, for the first time ever, and by the way, here are the fun statistics that WebMD told me. Within the first 10 years of being diagnosed with Crohn's disease, I think 60% of people have an intestinal blockage.
Mm-hmm.
I was diagnosed 10 years ago. This is my 10-year anniversary. I'm a little bit bummed out. Nobody's congratulated me. But it's 10 years, so I really just made that statistic right in the nick of time.
Perfect.
Yeah, and then as I read on, I was like, cool, I'm a statistic, finally. Then I was reading and it was like, and of those 50%, 70 to 80% will require surgery to rectify this issue. And I'm like, uh-oh, that's not a good number if I'm already in the 50%, you know? So in any case, it thankfully seems to be resolving on its own. It's just basically exactly what it sounds like. And then your whole body goes haywire because it's a autoimmune disease. And so it feels like you have the flu on top of a stomach bug, on top of like getting hit by a Mack truck. So I wasn't super great for a few days, but I'm back, baby, sort of.
Oh,
and
I'm back.
Taking a lot of Tylenol and just drinking water.
Trizash is back from the dump.
Trizash is classy as ever. You know what the worst part was is I had no appetite for 3 days, which is when I know like something is deeply wrong. Like
I've never experienced that.
No, it was it was scary. And I could not fathom the thought of eating. And so I, at one point, took a sip of water and I felt it like in my tummy and it hurt so bad.
It hurt? Even like, what did it feel like?
Bad.
What did it feel like?
Just like, you know, when you have like, well, I was about to say, you know, when you have an ulcer. Well, it's
actually, yes, I've had one.
So you have an ulcer and then you're just like pouring like cold water on it inside your tummy. It just feels like someone is stabbing you from the inside a little bit. So it's not enjoyable. And, you know, every time, I haven't had one of these before, this blockage thing, but anytime I do go into a flare, and this is my first one in like 5 years, every time I do go into a flare, I'm like, oh yeah, this really fucking blows.
Yeah.
Like I forget, you know, I feel like it's with like childbirth and stuff where your body's like, let's not think about that, you know, and just like compartmentalizes it.
So is it
Um,
because like, well, so don't you do your infusions though? Is it just like even with an infusion,
I
it
do, and so that's the scary part is sometimes over the years, and they say after a decade, oftentimes it
yeah, I know,
starts
yeah.
to lose
Ugh.
efficacy, and so I already had that kind of nerve in the back of my mind, and then I went to my infusion a couple weeks ago, and I'm only like halfway through infusion, so I should be fine. But I went and they did like their regular blood draw, and my inflammation markers were high, and I was like, hopefully
Mm.
that's just a fluke. Well, it does not seem to be a fluke. So you know what? This might be an interesting rest of the year for all of us. We'll see.
Well,
But for
finally,
now, I'm okay.
in a very sad way, I finally have a partner in this stupid medical
This
world. So
health bullshit that we talk about
it's
nonstop.
it's very rare we hear you talk about the pain you're in. So this
Mm.
is an exclusive as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, welcome everybody
I'm
to
so
my side
sorry.
of the table.
I'm so sorry you're dealing with that though,
Well,
because
I just want to give a quick thank you. I appreciate that. You and everybody else have been so kind and supportive and so patient when I just canceled our recording and etc. But I want to give a shout out to Blaze because I was gone for 4 days traveling to New York and Boston and living my best life solo, doing Beach Tea Sandy shows, having the time of my life. And he was solo parenting that whole time. Then I came home and I was like, I actually need to be unconscious for 21 hours straight. So I just like slept. And then the next 2 days I was like, I can't move my body because I feel like Trizash, you know? And so he was
sorry,
like,
it's
no
not
problem.
funny.
It's a little funny. He's like, no problem, no problemo. You get your rest. We'll take you to the hospital, whatever we need to do. Um, and he just, did the solo parent thing. And, it's even if I were in that case, I think he would be very thankful for me. So I want to throw it back at him. He's a
Aw.
very good parent and a very responsible and, I don't know. I'm just thankful because otherwise I don't know what the hell I would have done.
He's a good man. He's a good man,
yeah,
Christine.
He is. He's a good one. So I feel very fortunate that I didn't have to worry about the well-being of my child while I ailed away.
I honestly don't know what you would have done without him. I don't know how you
No, I
could
don't.
have...
I would have probably called my mom and just been like, I'm moving in with you, I think. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. Zandy, time to be
confused.
uncle of the year. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Take her to
man.
the park. I don't know.
I hope I didn't mean to like force you to talk about that on the air or anything.
No, we know it would have come up because I can't keep my mouth shut about anything. So,
well, are you treating yourself to anything to help your situation? Any yummy treats recently now that you can't eat again?
I've been cricketing a lot with my cricket maker, my cricket machine.
You're back on your bullshit,
I'm
Christine.
back on my bullshit, which is why when we started, you saw me running around. I couldn't find the adapter, my dongle to plug in my microphone because I had been using the dongle for the cricket. So...
Yeah, unsurprising. It just also, is it on the table behind you? Do you have a bunch of art stuff going on? Because it looked a little busy over there.
That's actually my new hobby. I'm doing nails now.
Oh, Christine.
Yeah,
Nails by Christine.
These have been on for 9 days, which is a record, and they're like fake nails.
Wow.
And I made.
They look very she.
Thank you. I'm trying to move them fast so you don't see all the flaws. But
okay.
Wait, can I show you the shirt I made for the Fall Out Boy concert? Hold on.
Obviously.
Just the back I've made. The front isn't done yet. Hold on. Let me grab it.
I'm so excited.
Okay, here's the back, right? Okay.
First of all, I'm so sorry if you can hear banging. That's my maintenance man doing something to my fucking ears, apparently. That's Juan. Hang on. Let me wait for it to pause so I can read it to everybody. Okay. Well, okay. It says part-time soulmate, full-time problem. And in case you were not lucky enough to see this with your own eyes on YouTube, that's incredible. Congratulations.
Thank you. I designed it too. Like I went and I learned how to make font like you keep in a shape but then make it wavy, and so I learned.
What
how
is
to
the
do
font,
that.
Christine?
Oh, great question. It's called Surfwave.
It actually looks very cool. I could see that. That's an easy Etsy purchase.
And then I was looking at shirts on Etsy and I was like, wait, I could just make that instead of pay like $35. Also, here's the front. I haven't finished what's going underneath it, but this is the name of the song.
Hold Me Like a Grudge.
Yeah.
Christine,
isn't that the best?
It actually is very cute. I'm not saying you need another side hustle, but that could actually...
I was literally thinking nails, cricket, What can't I do? Just kidding. I can't do a lot
Can you
of things.
imagine a little nail pop-up that you did and let people come and get their nails done by you, and they could
but it
just
would
tell
be
you ghost
so
stories while you did it?
bad. It would be so bad. The shirt
Okay.
thing I could at least do over and over until I figured it out. The nails, I think people would leave feeling a little bit like duped, you know.
I do think you have it in you to be able to have that side hustle on Etsy or Redbubble or whatever, but I have to be honest, I have already been a part of your journey of having to mail out individual shirts multiple times.
That's right. Wait, well, how could I forget? Like we literally
it did drive you insane.
Oh yeah, it did drive me thoroughly insane. That's true.
But you could do it again. You could.
But this time would be different.
Okay. How would that be?
I didn't think you would ask me how. I just thought you would take my word for it.
Okay. I disagree. But I think if you decided you wanted to do that, I would say I'm looking forward to that for you. Love that journey. I can't wait to see in about a few weeks when you give up, because it is a little
when I'm done. But that's what we do. We're Geminis. We get really excited about something and then we go, eh.
You know, it'd be interesting though. You could probably think of like for Patreon or something, like the merch. If you remember when I had handmade merch and people like lost their minds, imagine if you handmade merch.
Okay, now we're
this
talking.
is your time to shine there.
Okay, so basically what you're saying is I would be doing all the same work, but it would just be for many more people.
More work because you'd be doing my half too. So
right, your half too, and I wouldn't be making additional income because it would already be part of the Patreon. You know what? I'm in.
That sounds, sometimes our most chaotic decisions end up leading us to great things.
Especially when we say them on air and can't take them back. So,
that definitely is a winning financial plan. I don't see any holes to
wait,
that.
what if I want to make Patreon something? I'll make Patreon something. I mean,
oh God, Christine,
I don't know. I'll try.
What else can you do besides shirts? Little stickers? Can you make can you make nail designs?
Nail stickers? Wait, that's cute. I don't know how to do that, but I
know by 3 a.m. you'll know how to do it. I'm sure.
Okay, fair. But I will have had to invest probably $2,000 more in materials and supplies. So at this point, we're just like losing so much money. That's the other thing. I buy so much shit for my hobbies, and then I'm like, I'll make a side hustle, and then I just spend all the money.
Okay, how many companies, how many podcasts alone do you know that have made it 6 years, very successful, having a good time? People still like to hear what we have to say somehow. And sometimes it's because you just got to make an irresponsible choice. The whole podcast was an irresponsible choice.
That's exactly right. We're built on irresponsible choices. The show is built.
They keep wanting to see the downfall, but we keep proving them wrong,
Is that a Fall Out Boy lyric?
Could it be? You should put it on a shirt.
Oh, holy shit. I'm going to put... Actually, do you have 2 hours? I have to go put that on a shirt now.
Okay, but make 80 of them and then sell them and let me have 50% of the income.
This podcast is built on irresponsible decisions. I can't wait. We got to find a snappy way to put that on a shirt.
Put it on a dumpster fire or something.
Oh, wait. That's cute.
Make Kesha say it or whatever you were singing earlier.
Make P. Diddy say it. How are you? I'm sorry. I've been talking a lot today.
Finally.
Finally, it's your turn.
Well, I'm a little nervous today because, as I said, my maintenance man has decided that now is the hour to just throw his hammer into every inch of my ceiling.
Cool.
So there may be moments today, which we can edit out later. Thank you, Jack, in advance. But, well, if you see me mute, let's just kind of chill. Let's just have a moment until he's done hammering.
Part about our relationship with Jack and incidentally Eva, because obviously, is that we promised Jack beer for the episode that just came out, and then we just promptly forgot because we said it on air, and then Eva was suddenly responsible for it and was like, wait, Eva, you guys promised him beer, and we were like, oh yeah, can you send him some beer? What is wrong with us? We want to do it. Our brains just are a sieve, just sand through my fingers. It's like I would want to give Jack.
Is that a Fall Out Boy lyric?
Yeah. Yeah, so is this. Shirt. So is this. I want to give Jack the world, but sometimes I forget what I said. So, Eva, thank you for reminding us always and for keeping us. What's the word?
Honest?
Yeah, that's the word.
Responsible? Anything.
Those words are hard for me to conjure up
to
for
even
obvious
say.
reasons.
Well, so I don't know what this guy's situation is, the maintenance man today. Someone upstairs, it sounds like, needs an entirely new apartment. So,
Oh, maybe they're expanding into yours.
maybe it sounds like they are just drilling a hole into my
Yeah,
ceiling.
maybe they're creating a basement for themselves in your apartment.
So people can't see it, but right behind my computer is a wall. And I think that wall must have a bunch of pipes or something because he's banging what I imagine is the pipes up there, and it feels like
It's like
he's literally
ricocheting into.
it sounds like he's just knocking into the wall. So anyway, apologies in advance, but that's why I drank, because I feel like this is going to be a real clumsy episode for no good reason. So, and no one's even going to have to hear how choppy it is because they're going to hear the edited version. But
can we just blame me though? Because as you said before we started recording, if I need to run to the bathroom, which if never before, now is the most likely time for this to occur. Because in the past, Em would say that to me because I'd be having like tummy ache, and Em would be like, "Oh, you can leave anytime you want." And I'm like, "Oh, thanks. I won't though. It's fine." This time I'm like, "I might though." So I appreciate the leniency you have.
I'm really hoping Jonathan, the maintenance man, and you perfectly sync up your situations
nice?
where you're running to the bathroom and that's when he decides to
I'd say
bang
it's go
all
time.
the walls.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
okay, I'll text him.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Until then, Christine.
Yes.
I've just got a story for you.
Whee! Oh, I'm so excited for today. I feel like we haven't recorded in a while, and I really am aching for a ghost story. And
I kind of. Yes, sorry, I did not mean to interrupt you. I don't know what's wrong
go
with me.
ahead.
I was gonna say it was me jumping in because I'm also incredibly excited to hang out with you, and I feel like I feel like this is to your detriment because I think we vibe the best when you're on tour with Sandy, because then when we see each other, it's so few and far between that we.
Oh, yeah, we're having other experiences because it means you and I are off tour, which means you're planning stuff.
So I'm having a great time.
I'm falling into disrepair. My body's falling apart. And then when we get back together, it's like we're thriving. You know what I mean?
I honestly, though, like, that might be it. I don't know what it is, but
my mental illness is at an all-time high. In case anyone was wondering, I've just like off the wall lost it, but it's okay.
I'm not saying you wouldn't make $1 million from a shirt that says "My mental illness is at an all-time high," but you should make one just to see what happens. I think that would be copyrighted
because I'm almost positive that's a Fall Out Boy lyric. Like, there's no way it's not.
I feel like anything moody but true that you say
emo.
is Fall Out Boy.
The angst is real.
So here's the situation today. I've got for you a spooky town, a ghost town, if you will.
Ooh.
And this is the story of Dudleytown, Connecticut.
Oh my, I've never heard of that.
Have you? Okay, interesting, because as the ghost side of things, I have heard about it a lot, but I don't think anyone else would know about it, or even people who.
And I would say I'm sort of the Connecticut side because I go there pretty often, several times a year. So, you know.
Well, now you got a place to talk to Blaze about all the way there.
Maybe he knows. I'll be very mad if he knows and he's never mentioned it. I don't think that's the case, but
it would make me giddy to see a silly little fight like that sprout between the two of you. Just something about nothing.
The Trizash would get thrown out again. The word, not the literal trash, wouldn't get thrown out. It doesn't matter. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
You're good. So Dudleytown, Connecticut, I've heard of a lot. I don't know. I don't expect anyone else to have, but it is a very, very small village in an area of Connecticut called Cornwall. And anyone in Dudleytown back in the Dizzy, since we're going with this weird way of talking again, anyone in Dudleytown regularly had to still go into Cornwall because their town was so small. So just to give you an idea of like, the population was, I think, max 26 families.
Oh, wow.
Max.
Tiny.
They didn't have schools or stores. They didn't have their own cemetery. They didn't have their own church. So
losers.
I know. Lame. So they had to rely heavily on Cornwall, but Dudleytown itself is the little section that's spooky. You can still, if you were to go there, there is some remnants of the old foundations of the house, but nature has slowly kind of reclaimed the space, if you will. And Dudleytown is between Bald Mountain and Woodbury Mountain. And this is my favorite fact about Dudleytown, because I'm probably part vampire, and that I am like just always anti-sun, anti
You're not
being outside.
anti-garlic though.
No. See, I
No.
said half vampire.
You're
That's
right. That is
all
true.
garlic, no sun. You know what I'm saying?
That's from your other side of the family.
Yeah.
All
So,
garlic, no sun.
tell Fall Out Boy to write that one
Wait
down.
a second. That is also something I can vibe with. Finally, we found a matching slogan we can both get on board with.
So, Dudleytown, one of my favorite fun facts, is that because it's between two mountains, I think it's actually surrounded by 3 mountains, but it's a very hilly area in some like thick forest. And so it's 100% all the time dark. Like even at like high noon, it is dark. And you know I love gloom and doom, and I
Wait
love
a second. So it's like just shaded always.
always.
Oh no, that sounds horrible.
To me, no. To my doctor, who's already told me I'm severely vitamin D deficient, yes.
Yeah, boo, you gotta listen. I'm also vitamin D deficient, but you can take a pill for that. It doesn't matter. But
I do take a pill for that.
right? But so do
I'm
I.
fine.
But seasonal affective disorder, man, that kicks my ass every
I've
year.
never had that. I'm very lucky.
It hurts me. So I could never live in like a place like Seattle or Dudleytown.
Oh, really? Because Seattle's like the only city that
It's
I
your
haven't
dream
lived in
town.
that I wish I lived in.
I really can see it for you. I would only visit between certain months because I think I would just get sad.
But then guess what? Just like when you're on tour right now, you'd be gone and we would get to re-fall in love with each other again.
Great point.
Anyway, apparently this little thicket hillside area is the equivalent of Seattle to some.
Okay.
So
To me only.
but it's very dark all the time. It has been, and I'm sure that, contributes to it being seen as very spooky.
Right.
It's been called this is a quote, the most evil location in the world, the most haunted place in New England, and one of the scariest places in the U.S. It's also been called the Village of the Damned.
Oh, this is very dramatic, I feel like.
Which, like, speaking of emo bands, was there not a band called Village of the Damned, or should there have been?
Great. It has got to be something like that. Let me look it up.
Because like their fans would be called the Villagers.
That's definitely a movie, a horror sci-fi film.
There's also a horror movie just called The Village, which sucked.
Oh, I know about that one. I've heard about The Village.
My mom dragged me to that one of all movies. She thought it was going to be about a lovely little village, and then it ended up being people getting slaughtered.
It's about like a little Swedish village. That's what I thought Midsummer was going to be, and then I stood up and was like, "This is so upsetting."
My mom, when I lived with her back in my teenage years, my mom, I don't know what her deal was, but she had this reputation across the family that she was just the worst movie picker, worst TV picker. She would always say, we have to go see this one. We have to watch this one. It'd be great. And then it was just the fucking worst, most boring thing in the world. Or it would be really crazy that she was not expecting, so none of us were expecting it.
She just didn't do her research.
Example, whatever, I don't remember what age I was. I had to have been like
15-ish.
15-ish. My mom was like, oh, I know like vampires are a big thing right now. So you should, I just heard about this new show called True Blood. We should all watch it together. And the first episode is like all these vampires anger banging. Like,
isn't it sex? Like I was going to say,
like,
I remember my friends being like, just don't watch it when your parents are around.
Oh, well, all I did was watch it with my parents around, apparently.
Cool.
And my mom refused to turn it down, like turn the volume down, the channel off, none of it.
She was probably like, what are you talking about? This is my favorite movie. My favorite show.
It was a really good memory for all of us in terms of like awkward laughing.
Stories, right.
It's like, there goes mom again.
Oh, silly Linda.
Anyway, she also picked The Village, and it was like someone with like a pig face mask killing everybody. It was awful.
Oh, no.
How did we get here? Oh, Village of the Damned. Okay, so that's what Dudleytown has been called. And it's because Dudleytown is said to have a weirdly high amount of deaths and people losing their minds.
Well, yeah, there's no vitamin D.
You see, you're already picking up on the skeptic side of things, Mrs. Blaze. So there is also a weirdly high amount, apparently, of drownings, tuberculosis, and animal attacks that other villages don't seem to have, and not even the rest of Cornwall, Connecticut itself.
Okay, that's very odd.
The town was said to, like I said, drive people mad, or they would eventually die. Citizens were, quote, mysteriously killed, Drowned, burned, clawed, poisoned, suffocated, bludgeoned, every vile and violent kind of death imaginable.
What the fuck? Bludgeoned?
Bludgeon's crazy.
That's crazy.
That one's wild. Clawed? That's
Claude?
wild.
I didn't even catch Claude.
I don't know. Which of those would you prefer? None of them.
What a fun sleepover game.
But it is what the game we would play at a
None.
sleepover
Zero.
for sure.
Yeah, it is the most Em and Christine game ever, but also probably the worst.
So,
yeah.
as you were saying, a few reasons why this might have actually happened. Because, so that's I tried to pull from a few sources, but the rumors have really gone rampant on these deaths because the actual documented deaths all have like seemingly reasonable explanations.
Right.
But the rumor of this town is if you go, you'll be cursed forever, your family's going to die, you'll die. If you try to leave after you've already moved there, you'll die. Like but also everyone dies, right? So
that is what I've heard.
That's the big rumor we're all trying to debunk. So another big reason why people end up leaving, because it's a ghost town now, right? So, and it's not because everyone died. It's because a lot of people just evacuated, just like jump ship.
Right.
And realistically, it could be because the rumors were messing with people's day-to-day lives. But also, they were in the middle of like a 24/7 dark hillside and they were farmers. Like they didn't
I was about to ask, well, what were their jobs? Because if it was anything to do with agriculture, I'm sure they weren't thrilled with the outcome.
Yeah, the soil degraded very quickly. Their winters were incredibly harsh. They didn't have any crops that would survive. Their livestock would go missing in the hills. So very quickly it became a ghost town.
Oh no.
Many people think that the soil can't possibly be enough reason for why this town becomes abandoned. So they think the town has to have been cursed all along, which honestly, if I lived in a town with like maximum 26 families back in like the 1700s, you got to make up stories to keep yourself interested, keep yourself entertained.
Especially if it's dark, like you can't go play hoop and stick,
You took the words right out of my mouth.
That's what I thought.
So they thought the town has to be cursed, and there are now, because it's been like, from the 1700s, that's 3 centuries, going on more than 3 centuries. There's a lot of time for versions to spread and, there to be a bunch of different twists to whatever origin you've heard. But
Sure.
There are some major beats, which we'll go with today, which is that starting in 1738, Dudleytown was settled by a farmer named Thomas Griffiths, and he owned at least half the land originally. And fun fact, he thought about actually naming the town Owlsbury.
Wait, I like that.
Because it was always so dark, so it was the perfect area for all these owls every night and day.
He's like, nothing spooky about this. I'll move in and call it my own.
Exactly. I don't know why they didn't keep Owlsbury, but he didn't actually ever really name it. And then not even 10 years later, the first Dudleys arrived. And I guess just by having so many Dudleys in the area, they kind of claimed the territory themselves. I know. So the Dudleys arrive. They all have some very interesting names. I think one is Barzillai.
What?
And then one's Abiel, Martin, Gideon. Those are less as wild as Barzillai.
Yeah.
Can you imagine going? I think that you're saying. I know I like am notorious for mispronouncing things, but after Googling it, I got Barzillai.
Listen, I've never heard anything even remotely similar, so I'm gonna trust you on that one.
So these are 3 to 5 different men with the Dudley name. They were allegedly all brothers. Some other sources say cousins. A lot of sources also say there was only 3 of them instead of 5 of them. So I don't know at all what the right version is. But a slew of Dudley men show up. Let's just say that.
A murder of Dudleys. What's the one with D?
Can I
a dirge of Dudleys.
Can I ruin something for you right now?
Yeah.
Okay, hang on.
Oh gosh, where's I'm going? Oh no.
Okay. just because we're talking about it. So I got you a present, and ironically, I got it on my anniversary with Halson.
And that's not ironic. That's how it should be.
So if you have this book already, I'll keep it for myself. But since we're on this conversation, I got you a book, and it's called A Conspiracy of Ravens. Do you know what this is?
I don't have that book.
Do you know what it is?
No, but it's so... Do I know what it is? Is it a collection of stories or something? Or of short stories?
Very short stories. As in like half a sentence. Maybe a phrase.
Wait, really?
I know you love birds.
I do.
And so it tells you every book and every bird and what their group name is called.
Oh no, I've never heard of this. Just kidding. Oh my gosh, this is that is way more fun than what I thought it was gonna be some Edgar Allan Poe shit. This is way more fun.
So there's a murder of crows.
Right.
There is an asylum of cuckoos.
No, cuckoos, like cuckoo, like your cuckoo.
And a curfew of curlews. Did you know that?
No, I had no idea about either one of those.
And there's a paddling of ducks.
Wait, you got me this, and I just started talking about a dirge of Dudleys?
Is that... Yeah, there's, by the way, a confusion of guinea fowl. Did you know that they're called a confusion? That's what we're called, too.
That is what we're called.
Anyway, I just shout out to this book, by the way. But
I'm going to put that, like, directly behind me while we record, just in case I need to grab it and find out what bird.
Anyway,
collection.
I literally got it, like, not even a week ago, and I like have been trying to figure out if I'm going to send it to you or wait until I saw you again.
I love it.
But anyway, you had an asylum of loons. An asylum of loons and a mischief of magpies.
Ooh, but you know what's
they have the craziest
funny?
names.
Because magpies do cause mischief. They like shiny things, so they take shiny things.
And you know what I learned too, because we were just at a pride bar, is the reason that flamingos are notoriously gay. One of the reasons is because as a group, they're called a flamboyance.
Yes, precisely. And the reason that loon, probably because it's like you're loony. And then that makes sense with the other one. What was the other one? Cuckoos, an asylum of cuckoos or something?
Yeah, something like that.
Wow, that's cool.
Anyway, for Dudleys, I guess we can pick.
It's a dirge of Dudleys.
A dirge of Dudleys. Okay.
Because it sounds dark and menacing, you know.
Yes, for sure. What would you be called? A village of Fall Out Boy fans or something?
A village of one. That's a great question. I think you would be an empire of M's.
That's the truth.
Yeah, I think I'd be the Christine Chapel, and that's it.
Population
and then
my
I would
friend.
Say I didn't get it. I didn't get the assignment.
So, anyway, a dirge of Dudleys come into Owlsbury.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
Nice try.
I tried.
I meant to the Dudleys. Nice try, Dudleys, trying to take over Owlsburg.
They do it pretty good because it's never called Owlsbury ever
Damn
again.
it.
So
until now.
Until this very moment. The Dudleys, they show up and apparently they bring this curse to town. So not only are they invading the space, but they did it knowing what they were going to do. So here is the curse that they brought to the town, these Dudleys. Look at you. You are extra beautiful with the light hitting you like that.
This light, when I put it over there, it makes the microphone a big shadow on my face. So I'm trying to find where to I mean, you'd think I would know how to do this after 7 years of podcasting.
I don't.
No, I can't figure my shit out.
Again, we've been doing this for 6 years and people have been waiting for the downfall this entire time. So
yeah, they're like any day now. And
they're like, eventually you'll learn how to fucking light your face.
I can't promise that, everybody. Sorry.
No.
Okay, we'll go with that for now.
You look great.
Thank you, Em.
Look at you. Look at that jawline. Ow, ow. Look at your little cheekies. That was nice. Good face all around. 10 out of 10.
Thanks. It's very ill.
Okay, I wasn't
mentioning
the tummy. The tummy is 0 out of 10.
That is correct. Yes.
Okay, so where were we? The Dudleys just bust down the door. They say, "I'm here." What's Taylor say? "I'm the problem, it's me."
Oh, that's the other shirt I made, but I didn't make it in time for the concert. but it says,
Aw.
"It's me. Hi, I'm the problem. It's me." But everyone had that. Oh, my favorite shirt was, "It's me. Hi, I'm the dad. It's me." When like teenagers went with their dads, it was so cute.
That's actually really
I
precious.
know.
So they show up and they bring this curse, and it comes from their ancestors. And it starts all the way in 1510 in England. It starts allegedly with Edmund Dudley.
Hmm.
And he tried to help overthrow King Henry the Eighth? King Henry the Seventh?
What are the
I think it was-
letters?
V's and I's, man. And eventually, because they found out he was trying to overthrow the king, he was beheaded. And his family was cursed right before his death of, I hope your family suffers something, blah, blah, blah. I didn't get the right words. I never even saw the words, but he was cursed, trust me. And so then his son, after he's been cursed, his son John also tries to take over the throne.
Oh boy.
Crazy dude. And he tries to do this by getting his son Guilford, which like this isn't just a random dude named John, by the way. He's like an actual duke. And like his son Guilford is a lord. So just to keep in mind, it's not like some Joe Schmo's
They're
like
not
I'm
just,
going to
like,
overthrow
villagers.
the king.
Yeah.
It's
Got
not
it.
like a J6 situation. So
What's
they
a J6 situation?
January 6th.
Oh,
It's
I'm
not
like-
just some random Joe Schmo's thinking they're going
I
to take down the White House.
I literally thought J6 was like a boy band or something. I was like, oh, cool. It's not like a Dream Street thing.
No, that's J14 is the magazine. The tiger,
Oh, maybe
like,
that's
the
where
tiger
my
beat
brain
kinda-
went. I thought it was like some boy band. Anyway, I get it. It's the insurrection. Okay, cool.
Yeah, ha ha ha. Isn't that
It's
funny? Did we
hilarious,
find
yeah.
a way to make a joke of that yet? No?
Man,
Okay.
always. Too soon.
So Edmund, he gets beheaded, he gets cursed. His son John tries to also take over the throne by getting his son Guilford to marry Lady Jane Grey, who I feel like this is like the second time we've ever talked about her,
Yes,
right?
you talked about her in Tower of London episode quite a lot.
Man, I hear little footsteps. Is it Lady Jane Grey herself?
Or
No,
is
it was Allison.
Jonathan?
No, they were a little too dainty. Jonathan's a bit of a
Oh, yeah, Jonathan.
barrel walker.
Literally, the walls are shaking because he's throwing his hammer around.
He does. He's a force to be reckoned with. So he tries to marry Lady Jane Grey because she was next in line for the crown. So for a moment, this plan actually worked where John got Guilford to marry Lady Jane Grey. She becomes queen, and they thought they figured it out. But then the whole plan gets found out, and so they end up getting executed, both of the Dudleys. So John and his son Guilford,
But isn't that
and
why
Lady Jane
anybody
Grey.
got? Oh shit! But isn't that why anybody got married then? For like to
Please,
status?
I know. I don't understand
what the plan was. Like, obviously they got married so that he could whatever. Okay.
Like no one's marrying the queen by accident.
Because like I fell in love with her, and then she took off her helmet, and I realized she was the queen. You know, it was like, what are you
Right.
talking about? That's of course that's why they got married.
She started at the top of the stairs wearing glasses with her hair up, but
Yeah,
then she took her hair
exactly.
down and took the glasses off, and everyone realized she was the queen and also the prom queen.
But then she tripped at the bottom of the stairs because she's so relatable.
She has to.
Yeah.
Well, we're all her a little bit, aren't we?
Well, we want to be anyway.
So because of this, all three of them ended up being executed. So now that's Edmund being executed, his son John, and his son Guilford all being executed.
Mm-hmm.
But also for like all doing a crime, apparently, like trying to like.
Apparently they knew that this was a risk they were taking. You know.
But apparently they're cursed. I feel like
Sure.
immediately we're dealing with privileged white men who are like, "Oh, it's not my
It
fault."
must be a
you know?
curse. I always say that when something's going wrong. I'm like, ugh, it's that curse, you know? Not my bad decision. It's not the foundation upon which I built this podcast and my life. All those irresponsible choices. It's just the curse.
I'm sure there's a lot of people currently in prison today who are like, "Oh,
Mhm.
it's the curse," you know.
I don't blame them.
So John's other son, not Guilford, who is the third generation to be beheaded, but a different son, he returns from fighting in a war in France, and he ends up. You would think he's like in the clear because he's like actually not doing anything.
Well, he shows up. He's like, where the heck did everyone go? Oh, they all got beheaded.
Exactly.
Oh, no.
But so he comes home from the war, and he brings home like the plague. He's like apparently like one of the patient
He's
zero or
Oh
something.
no!
Because somehow he is attached to the storyline that British soldiers are wiped out in droves from the plague.
Shit.
So somehow that's his fault. That does feel a little bit like a curse.
It does.
So he's died. Now John has a third son. So there's Guilford who got beheaded, third generation. There's Homeboy who wiped out all of a nation with the plague, I guess.
Oopsie.
And then there's a third son, Robert, who left England, and his descendants ended up in Connecticut, which is how we get to Dudleytown.
Okay.
So the third son, William, his descendants end up in Connecticut. And these are those like 4 or 5 like brothers who all showed up maybe all at one time or at different times, and they all essentially established Dudleytown.
The Dirge of Dudleys.
The Dirge of Dudleys, exactly.
Who come bearing a curse.
You get it, yeah.
I get it. I'm following for sure.
So there are already some issues with this story because records show that William's descendants moved to Italy, not the U.S. So if a dirge of Dudleys did show up, then maybe it's just a random other Dudley family, but then they wouldn't have the curse, right? So
yeah, I would think not. Unless
also
they
different
had some other random curse, but the odds of that seem a little silly.
Also, different stories mention that there, like I said, there were 3 to 5 brothers. Some of them were cousins. Some of them came first. Some of them came later. There's like no official story on how they all showed up there. So we don't really know the right number, the right origin, any of that.
Okay.
At any rate, they all show up in Dudleytown. This village has up to 26 families at one time. It was still dependent on Cornwall, but it was used as farmlands for flax, wheat, and corn. So not even like interesting things, in my opinion.
Hey, now watch it.
I don't know.
I
what
live
the
in Ohio. What do you think we do over here?
I don't know what I would
Actually,
consider
we do soy. I'm pretty sure.
I don't know what I would consider interesting. I don't know what I want them to grow, but not flax.
Not in a gross way, just like, I don't know, random way.
Yeah, eggplants would be cool. Like
Right?
purple carrots or something fun.
Ooh.
Yeah, be different, you know?
I'm growing tomatoes right now, and they're pretty fun because you can just pop them off and eat them. You don't need to like shuck them. You don't need to turn them into something.
I love it. I love a tomato.
Yeah.
So the area was never a good area for farming. It was dark. The soil was never good. The winters were rough, but the town did have iron ore, which they used. They had iron ore and they had timber, and those were used in nearby areas. But then those places just got lumber and iron ore from other places, so they ended up not needing Dudleytown.
Oh.
So they only were successful for like a second.
Womp womp.
Then the town, again, just started having oddly high numbers of death and people who apparently are going, quote, insane or just vanishing out of nowhere. And the only Dudley to live his whole life in Dudleytown, because there was all those brothers, was just one. His name was Abiel. And he lost his entire fortune. He apparently did go a little loony. And he couldn't pay his debts. He lost his property. He became a ward of the state at 90.
Oh.
But also in my mind, like if you're 90 in the 1700s, you're doing pretty fucking good.
If you're 90 now, I'm like, good for you, you know? Like that's pretty, you're doing it right.
Exactly. And also like, here's an argument. Like maybe he wasn't losing his mind. Maybe he was fucking 90 and like just
really
started losing it, you know?
Don't test my fucking rationale at 90 because I promise you
at 30
it's not gonna be at 30. Don't test it now. That's a great point. Forget it. Don't ever test it.
So after he moved out of his house, there was a guy named Nathaniel Carter who moved into the house, and the curse seemed to follow him because I guess it was like because he was just he lived in a Dudley's house in Dudleytown.
Oh no.
So Nathaniel Carter came home one day. This was years after living there, but he came home one day and his wife and kid were murdered and his other 3 children were kidnapped.
Oh my God, what?
His house burned down and eventually he was also murdered.
What? Do we know by whom?
So it sounds like he was in like right in the middle of some like indigenous territory, and I don't know the history, but it sounds like there was some hostility between
high. Yeah,
tensions were high.
Yeah.
So just by living in a Dudley house, he ended up the curse kind of, I guess, transferred to him. They
They're
say.
like, we stole all this land. It must be a curse that somebody's mad at us.
That's what I'm trying to get at. I'm glad you're saying it. Yeah. I was like, I don't
It's a
know if you're
little bit
cursed
like,
or you're a
huh.
colonizer and Karma is my boyfriend.
Yeah,
But, you know.
it's like the weirdest thing. Oh,
So
no.
anyway, his house was burned down. I mean, I'm not like happy that someone's
No,
wife
of
and children were
course.
murdered, but
No, there's nothing
also
good about it at all.
you can't expect to like live on like in an
Right.
area that's
It's just like
Yeah.
not necessarily a curse, more just like that's probably a risk that was gonna
not trying to
place.
fully like victim blame here, but you did put yourself kind of in that
in a very
space, you know?
dangerous situation. Yeah.
So in 1792, there was a resident of Dudleytown named Gershon Hollister. I really wanted him to be like the Mr. Hollister of mall fame. But
What's that?
no.
Of mall fame.
I wanted him to be
I'm
the
stuck
reason
on-
I
can you
smelled like Jake
imagine?
Cologne for 7 years. But
I was so intimidated about going into the. And somebody recently commented on one of my photos, like, "Oh, is that top from Hollister?" And I was like, "No." It was like an old photo, and I was like, "No, it was from Gap." I was too scared to go into a Hollister. Like, I still have never been in one.
I was a Hollister teenager.
I know you were, and I would have been so afraid of you. Can you imagine though finding out if I were little and you were going to Hollister and I found out that the creator of Hollister's first name was Gershon? I'd be like, did you know that the guy who created your shirt is called Gershon? That would be me trying to take you down.
Yeah, you'd try to shame me out of never wearing Hollister
And you'd be like,
again.
Gershon is cool now, and then I'd be the loser again.
This
This is how I tell stories in my head because I'm
Well, now
mentally ill.
because your mental illness is at an all-time high.
Just
Well,
all-time high.
Well, also like grandpa names and grandma names are back, so Gershon might actually
exactly
be like
right.
someone's baby right now.
It could be. And
Anyway,
they're destined for great things, by the way.
were you an Aeropostale girly? Like, what was your vibe?
I did go into Aeropostale. That is the one. And I don't.
I was
think ever
American
really-
Eagle and Hollister, and I think that
American
was it.
Eagle was like my jam, and still is. They
have great jeans.
Grown.
That's all I'm gonna
They
say.
have great leggings. They have great bras. They have great underwear. I swear, I love their stuff. Not an ad.
Well,
not an ad. Not an ad.
Not an ad, but maybe at
Unfortunately.
14 I would have desperately wanted it to be an
Oh,
ad,
for
but
sure.
no, it's not. So Gershon Hollister, he lived in Dudleytown in 1792, and he was killed while building a barn for a neighbor named William Tanner.
Mm.
Other accounts say that he didn't die while building a barn for William Tanner, but he was murdered by William Tanner in his own home.
Oh.
After this, Tanner started acting kind of wild, and he started muttering about monsters that he would see come out of the woods at night.
What?
So if he did kill Gershon, it sounds like he was just mentally ill. So,
Yeah.
but whatever. Apparently, it's the curse. So
Sure.
in 1804, resident General Herman Swift of Revolutionary War fame,
Sure. We all know him.
his wife Sarah was struck by lightning on their front porch in Dudleytown and died.
What?
General Swift also lost his mind and died shortly after. Although I would like to consider that PTSD from being in the fucking Revolutionary War, but okay.
Yeah, lost his mind. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of mental illness, but also a lot of good reasons to have
Right.
maybe some mental
Like
illness.
understandable. Yeah.
So there's also the story in Dudleytown of a woman named Mary Young Cheney who was born in Dudleytown. And other sources said that she was just born nearby Dudleytown, but I guess this curse doesn't know GPS, right? So maybe
Right.
it's like it kind of matters
It's just
into
one of those
other
mountains
spaces.
or something nearby.
So in 1833, Mary Young Cheney leaves Dudleytown and moves into what I think I read correctly as a vegetarian boarding house.
Cool. Catch me there.
And this sounds like a fever dream, but she moved into a vegetarian boarding house and it was owned by Dr. Graham of graham cracker fame.
Shut the front door. Wait a second. This is actually starting to make sense to me.
Is it? Tell me
No,
how.
I'm serious. Like, I know it doesn't sound like it, but you know the whole story of the Kellogg family?
No.
Oh my God. I got to cover that one day as like a true crime story. The Kellogg, basically, oh my
Wait,
gosh.
can I not eat Kellogg's now? What's
No,
this
no,
now?
no. It's like the origin of cereal, basically. The guy, hold on, let me find his name. Please hold. Elevator music.
Is it Dr. Graham of graham cracker fame?
Okay, so I was right. It is it is cornflakes, like Kellogg's cornflakes.
Mm.
They were originally created in 1894 by Will Kellogg for patients at the Battle Creek Sanitarium,
Oh,
and it was their whole thing was that they wanted to have a place where people. I mean, this is not made up. Their patients could not masturbate, could not eat anything like tasty or enjoyable. So they basically created cornflakes as like the meal to serve.
to curb their horniness.
Yeah, basically. And that is not, don't take my word for that exact thing, but there's some really good podcast episodes about this, but it is talk about Looney Tunes. Like, this story
That's wild.
is kooky. And I think John Kellogg is the one who like took it to the next level. He had this like really wild like religious view, and it's something. Let me find. Oh, here we go. So he believed that his sanitarium. He promoted vegetarianism, which is why.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
Yeah, which is why the connection reminded me. The use of enemas, so they would like constantly use enemas on these people, exercise, sunbathing, and hydrotherapy, as well as abstinence from smoking, tobacco, drinking alcohol, and sexual activity, including masturbation. And then he dedicated the last 30 years of his life to promoting eugenics. So,
Whee!
yeah,
Oh, yay. Okay.
it's not great. But anyway, he created the invention of breakfast cereal cornflakes. I mean,
Wow.
he invented
A lot to discuss at the breakfast table, I think.
Yeah. And so he actually created these vegetarian foods for his patients, and then they would be marketed. So it would not surprise me if the graham cracker was part of this.
I wonder if he was graham
Oh my God.
crackers.
Literally, he followed the teachings of Sylvester Graham. Is that the guy's name?
I just know Dr. Graham.
Oh, yeah,
Maybe.
yeah. Sylvester Graham, who recommended a diet of bland foods to minimize excitement, sexual arousal, and masturbation.
Oh, great.
Anyway, fun fact.
Okay. Sorry, my
Sorry
light
to
went out.
totally derail, but I gotta tell you, when you said Graham, I was like, you're never gonna believe this, but I think I actually know where this is coming from.
That was the most Alexander Schieffer thing I've ever seen in my life. That was like such a by the way, I know that trivia fully. So anyway, so there's a woman who lived in Dudleytown named Mary Young Cheney, and she moved into a boarding house owned by Dr. Graham.
Excellent.
Where she met, apparently, her future husband named Horace Greeley.
Oh, I've heard of that.
Because he was the founder of the New York Tribune, and he ran for president against Grant.
Oh, usually I don't know things like that, but for some reason that name
You
really...
you just tapped a part of your brain that knew too much, and so it's all kind of spilling out now.
Oh, wow. It's like I opened a can of worms. Oh,
Yeah.
no. Oh, no.
Well, so apparently, a week before the election, this woman died by suicide.
Oh, shit.
And on top of that, he did not win the election, her husband. And for some reason, even though she has moved away from Dudleytown, they blame the curse on both the election results and her dying by suicide.
Oh, geez. Okay.
Which, like, neither...
Nah.
No.
Nah.
Also, sources say that she actually had, like, a chronic lung disease, and so there might have been some... Maybe she just couldn't... It was apparently a very painful illness, and she maybe just couldn't take it anymore. I don't really know. But apparently, because once you're a resident of Dudleytown, the curse follows you. Which, by the way, becomes a curse, right? Like, it's just like now you're stigmatized as someone of Dudleytown, and anything that happens to you is now a curse.
True. Like, you can't win, really. Like, the curse is just part of it.
Yeah. So after the Civil War, many of the villagers in Dudleytown simply just packed up and moved away. They were tired of not being able to really farm that well. I'm sure, again, the rumors were not helpful. Maybe they really did believe. I mean, this was after the Civil War, but I wonder if that means maybe like was that at the beginning like of spiritualism? Maybe they thought like there really was something dark going on there. I don't know.
What year was that again?
It was just after the Civil War, so the 1860s.
Yeah, I feel like that makes sense.
And so Soil was very rocky, like I said, so like crops were just not happening anymore, and the rumors of the town being cursed. Basically, by the early 1900s, nobody lived there anymore.
That fast. Wow. I thought it would have at least been more
Yeah,
recent.
it was 100 like 70-ish years that from it being established to being abandoned.
Dang.
And one of the last residents was a guy named John Patrick Brophy, and his wife died from our favorite consumption.
Mm.
His kids apparently vanished into the forest to never be seen again. Although there's like a weird story that maybe the kids ran away out of shame because they had been caught stealing sled blankets. Weird.
Wait, what? Okay, sure.
Apparently, so I think they maybe were embarrassed and like ran off or something. That
That is
doesn't
pretty
feel like
embarrassing.
yeah. What all 26 families know what happened except they've all already moved away. Um. So his kids apparently just vanished right after his mom or after his wife died. Then he started talking apparently about creatures in the woods that he was seeing.
Uh-oh.
And then one day his house burned down in a random unexplained fire, and eventually he himself vanished without a trace and nobody knows where he went.
Oh no.
Only a few years later, Dudleytown was completely deserted, and there was a doctor named Dr. William Clark who came to Cornwall and found this like several hundreds of acres of land or how found all this land including Dudleytown, and he was like, I'm gonna buy this is all like totally private, great. And he bought out Dudleytown and on top of all that because there was no one there.
Right.
So it became his home and he built a summer home there. And Dr. Clark was called away for business one day, but when he came back 3 days later, his wife was upstairs. He found the door ajar, which is already a problem. His wife was upstairs and he found her sitting in a room maniacally laughing to nobody.
Oh my god, what?
She started talking about seeing creatures in the woods. And keep in mind, this is years after it's already been abandoned, so I don't even know what they've heard about the city.
Oh no. That's creepy.
She was never the same and was never fully recovered from that. The
How
rumors
long
are
was he gone again?
3 days.
I mean, that's not, I'm sorry. I don't think that's long enough. Like, you hear people at lighthouses, like, who are alone for months kind of lose it, but 3 days, like, whoa.
That's wild.
Oof.
Maybe back then it was like a fortnight or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But they said it was just 3 days. So
jeez.
they say that she was hospitalized or that she also died by suicide. She was also said to have a chronic illness, to be fair. So we don't really know the official origins. But Dr. Clark did stay in Dudleytown on his own for a while, and I guess some other private owners have come in and tried to build homes there. So together they co-founded the Dark Entry Forest Association.
What?
And Dark Entry Forest sounds spooky, but that's actually the name of the road because the whole place is dark all the time.
That is still spooky.
Yes, it is also still spooky.
The road is called Dark
Entry.
Jesus, that's so creepy.
And so he created the Dark Entry Forest Association to preserve the land. Although I have seen in more detail that maybe it's just a bunch of like rich people in a society who are, I don't know, they like living out in the forest by themselves and are keeping trouble away. So
I get it.
This is everybody's reminder to drink some water, you little dehydrated rats.
Mm-hmm. We want you to be a good old drowned rat.
Yeah. If you're going to be a rat, be a drowned one. Or at least a hydrated one. Okay. So since the descendants of, since Dr. Clark created this association and now a bunch of people are preserving the land, descendants of the Dudleys have tried to debunk the town's curse. And the Cornwall Historical Society has also joined in on this. And they're basically trying to stop people from spreading that there is a curse and in a way that's like actually giving people, reasons to want to go visit.
I feel like the Dudleys are just like, oh, it wasn't us.
Right. At this point, though, if my last name was Dudley and I lived in Connecticut, can you imagine the jokes you get? Can you imagine the comments at a bar like, "Oh, Dudleytown, you're cursed.
You cursed?
Don't come near me."
Exactly. They're just trying to clear their name.
So there's one guy named Gary, of course, Gary Dudley, and he's a historian, a genealogist, and he is trying to Oh, he's back. That's good.
Is that what that is? I was like,
It's
a little rat has come knocking.
it's Gary Dudley, the dehydrated rat.
Oh no.
Gary Dudley, I'm not calling you a dehydrated rat. I'm sorry.
Oh no.
But he decided that he was going to try to debunk the town's curse so his family could have a cleared name. Cornwall Historical Society joined in, and this is a quote from the New England Historical Society talking about what the Cornwall Historical Society has said. So, the New England Historical Society, this is a quote from their website about the Cornwall Historical Society debunking all of the stories of Dudleytown.
Right.
So this is the whole quote from their website. The Dudleys of Dudleytown has no connection to the noblemen beheaded in England. So immediately they're shutting it off. There's no curse. That's what they're saying. I feel like it's the ghosts telling me I'm wrong.
No, that's what I'm saying. If we didn't know that was Jonathan, I'd be like, holy shit. A ghost is having an opinion about this.
Okay, so there's no curse.
Right.
Gershon Hollister was not murdered. He fell from a rafter during a barn raising. Abiel Dudley didn't go mad. He lived until 90 and got a little senile. The Carter tragedy of the guy who found his wife and children dead and the other ones kidnapped, that happened far away from Dudleytown. Furthermore, they lived right in the middle of a heavily aggressive territory. And his 3 children that were kidnapped did survive, and his son became a state Supreme Court justice, apparently.
Oh.
Holy shit.
My goodness.
Horace Greeley's wife never even set foot in Dudleytown, so the rumors of her being born there is not true, apparently. She died of a lung disease in New York City. One of the things that a lot of people say is super eerie and spooky about Dudleytown is that it's just wildly quiet all the time, like no wind, no bugs, no birds. It's just eerie sounding.
Ugh.
What they have to say about that is sometime in the 1960s, Dudleytown was sprayed with DDT.
Oh, great.
Was sprayed with DDT.
Oh.
So Dr. Clark, when he bought the house, he only used it for weekend visits, so his wife wouldn't have stayed if he had to leave for a business thing. And the wife had a chronic disease and she couldn't stand the pain very often. That's their words. So she probably, if she died by suicide, it wasn't because she like lost her mind, you know?
Course, yeah.
Still, people claim that this somewhat abandoned town has its spirits and visitors have come from all over to check it out. So they say, I don't even give a shit if it's cursed or not. We're going to go see for ourselves. So a lot of visitors have come out. It became a dare for locals to walk down Dark Entry Road at night, and people claim to hear monsters and see creatures with glowing green eyes looking back at them. To be fair, that could be the hordes of owls, or what are owls called? Something.
Oh, what is an owl? Oh, yeah, look at your book.
It's your book. I'm just here.
Oh, yeah, look at my book. I'm trying to remember. I feel like I should know what a group of owls is called.
A wisdom. Oh, that's because they're so wise.
I love that.
Anyway, apparently a wisdom of owls. I would imagine those are the glowing green eyes.
But by the way, that's like almost scarier than any sort of monster.
Yeah,
like if
just
a
staring
wisdom
at you.
of owls was staring at me in the dark.
And it would make sense why you can't hear birds at night if owls are the main bird there, and they are notoriously silent.
Yes, that's a great point.
People still, regardless of all of the ways that skeptics can easily break down the story, all the way to the fact that the origins have a bunch of plot holes and don't make sense and nobody even knows the right legend. People still say, I want to go and see some spooky stuff. At the very least, it's an abandoned village, which is definitely creepy, and I would want to look at that. But there's people ever since the 1940s have seen ghosts and heard of creatures in the woods, and they have feelings of overwhelming fear and sadness, and they feel themselves being suffocated and watched at night. People
it could be that situation of like, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but it could be that situation we've talked about like the more you talk about it and create the lore around it, it almost develops its own identity as like a spooky place, even if it doesn't have the like true origin.
Yeah, the power of persuasion or whatever it might be. People have also seen lights, they've heard sounds, they've felt someone push them, scratch them. Investigators have called this area a negative power spot for spirits to travel. Okay.
Sure.
People have also claimed to see half man, half animal creatures with snouts on their face running through the woods at night.
Oh.
One teenager reportedly got attacked by a creature out there with glowing green eyes or glowing red eyes and had gashes all over him. I feel like you could have just maybe fallen in the woods and okay. I don't know. Or it could I'm still also I would not be 100% in disbelief of something spooky happening, but
Yeah.
I also
I mean, first of all, M's the first to believe you, whoever you are. So don't worry. We're just trying to sound intelligent.
I just this story, I really wanted it to come off spookier, but I also want to do the people justice, especially since they have so proactively tried to make sure people don't go visit, you know?
Yes, I understand that. Yeah, that makes sense.
So one common report again is that the village is weirdly silent, and for decades this town used to actually go right through the Appalachian Trail. So a lot of hikers would go through the Dudley Woods.
Oh.
And those hikers reported hearing really weird stuff at night and seeing men with hooves, and they would see orbs in the trees, and they would see UFOs, and apparently there's a whole bunch of other like UFO adjacent stories to this area.
Okay, now we're talking.
But that also could just, I mean, that's one day I'll have to just cover the Appalachian Trail because that's just so goddamn spooky.
Oh
so,
God, I would die for that. I just love the Appalachian Trail, and I'm so close to it now. I just love it.
Apparently, TV crews have gone out there trying to film spooky things for their own content, and equipment has broken and malfunctioned. One reporter apparently got violently ill when she started talking about the stories out there.
Uh-oh.
And after years of pestering that this place is haunted, someone has to go check it out. Guess who attended? Not Zach, the Warrens.
Oh, next best thing.
The Warrens went out to check this village out. They said that they'd heard a different version of the curse's origin. They thought somebody in someone who they thought like one of the Puritans / colonizers / religious zealots was the person to get cursed, not someone from England in the 1500s.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And he was the governor for like 4 terms here, and he killed a bunch of Quakers, and one of the Quakers cursed him. So that was the story that they had heard.
Oh.
And the area was found oh, sorry, I just read the wrong part. Their story, by the way, also had a lot of plot holes, so I don't know if either story is accurate, but basically in the 1970s the Warrens went there. They taped themselves in Dudleytown as like a special, and they publicly called it demonically possessed, and this poor town that just wanted people to leave them alone.
I know, it's not fair.
Now every paranormal enthusiast went to Dudleytown. The Warrens, this is the most ironic part to me. The Warrens said that even if the legends weren't true, it's now officially haunted because people are now going there and doing rituals in the woods and going ghost hunting and summoning things. It's like you caused it to be haunted then.
Yeah, that's not fair.
So for her to go, I'm saying her as if Lorraine's the only one, but for both of them to say, oh, it's definitely haunted, and now I can't be proven wrong because it's haunted now, even if it wasn't when I said that. So anyway, the visitors started going through here all the time. Amateur ghost hunters started coming in. Teenagers around the area started trespassing and trying to
great.
They were like daring each other to stay in the woods. This led to huge vandalism and graffiti problems. Tour buses started coming through. One of the residents said that
buses, geez.
One of the residents said that he had to start like helping visitors tow their cars out because they were driving in like areas they weren't supposed to be and getting their cars stuck.
Oh my God, how infuriating would that be?
And of course, the Warrens went right to this place only a few years before the Satanic Panic, and so now people are afraid of Dudleytown because there's rumors of cults going in there at night. And by the way, the Warrens did nothing to help this situation. In fact, they posted the Dudleytown address on their website. So, whoops. Oopsies. It even got worse in 1999 when people spread that the Blair Witch Project was based on Dudleytown.
Oh my God.
And so around that time in the 90s, early 2000s, now everyone's coming in again in a whole new wave. And around the same time, lots of the land was burned in a fire when the town was hit by a lightning bolt. So then people started freaking out that this was a curse from the skies. Some people also say that this land is a vortex for spiritual energy. And nowadays, because it has to be, I think, the land is privately owned, still by the Dark Entry Forest Association. But they started banning visitors. They had to start like really strictly controlling the land because so many visitors were coming in and ruining things. But that has now led to conspiracy theories about who the Dark Entry Association is.
Ooh, I mean, they do have quite a spooky name, and they can claim that that was just based on the road, but like you could have been the Dudleytown Association, but you chose the Dark Entry. Like, come on, it's spooky.
And also, like, you're a private, very small group of people that live in an abandoned, potentially spooky, potentially dangerous forest. That sounds like a wizard's origin story, right?
I mean, with like owls and like spooky creatures.
So some say that they're a cult using the land for their own rituals and communication with spirits. Okay. Others say that they are keeping the vortex for themselves because they don't want to share it with anybody.
They're so selfish.
I love that one, by the way. It just sounds like a bunch of like only children got in a group together.
It's hilarious. Like they're just like, I want to write a screenplay about that, like a sitcom pilot or something. I just feel like that has a lot of legs.
That would actually be a great story to just do, like a secret society that actually does own the secret woods, and they're just the woods.
I feel like it should be a normal, just like town society, like the Dark Entry Force, and they're like, God, will you guys stop? Like, there's nothing here. We're just trying to preserve the legacy of the town. And then at the end of the pilot, plot twist, you find out like they actually do have a portal, and they just don't want to share with anyone else. TM. TM for our half-assed idea.
right. But just in case, if we decide at 3 a.m. we're going to write the entire series,
folks.
So some say that they're actually good people. This could be the other plot twist at the end of season 2. That they're good witches who are actually protecting us from the bad curse.
Now that. Wait, and then the foil is someone who's infiltrated the group and is like, no, I want to use this for nefarious purposes, but is posing as a good witch, you know?
That's the one.
TM.
So,
Eva, can you write that down, please?
Eva, can you just write the series for us, please? That'd be great.
I don't know if you saw, and I don't really listen to MFM much anymore, but Steven has stepped back from MFM.
Has left the building, apparently.
I know, and it's like, it feels so monumental. He's like the third. When someone asks, like, wait, which one's Steven again? Like my brother, somebody who doesn't listen to podcasts, I was like, well, I was going to say Steven's the Eva of My Favorite Murder, but I was like, honestly, Eva was the Steven of our show before, you know, because he was kind of we were like, we need someone like Steven. So I feel like Steven created such an entry point for so many people to be like, oh,
so many people.
That's a great position for a podcast, somebody who can help us record. And I don't know. I'm just
the only reason we even knew we could get, and I mean, Steven, if you're listening for some reason, we've never met, but the only reason we even thought we could have an Eva is because there was a Steven.
And we were like, what a great, that's such a great idea. So we almost like modeled our posting on ZipRecruiter, not an ad, but sort of an ad, based on the fact that, like, based on Steven's job description. I was like, oh, what a great idea. We could use someone to help us like that. So anyway, just side note, I saw that on Instagram. And so I want to say Godspeed to Steven. You know, wherever your life takes you next.
You know who told me that Steven left?
Who?
Eva. And I went, girl, if you ever leave us, I was like,
you know who told Eva?
You.
Well, I did, but then she's like, oh, Ray just told me. So I'm like, okay, I feel like Ray and I both told her, but I forget why I was texting her separately, but I didn't say don't leave me. She just immediately responded, but don't worry, I'll never leave you. And I was like, thank you for reading the thoughts.
Meanwhile,
I didn't even realize.
Her.
I know. I was like, I didn't even realize. I'm so glad that for once I don't have to demand the answer from you. You'll just voluntarily say, I won't leave you.
She's learned very well that we need it.
We need a lot of reassurance.
No, she was like, oh, did you know that Steven left? And I was like, what are you saying? I was like, is that your way of saying you're out too?
That poor woman has to like think before she says anything to us, which is like just.
I was like, Eva, if you ever leave, like, Christine and I will also leave, just so it's clear.
We will leave. We will leave this plane. We don't know how to function. Help us.
Anyway, just to end all of this, this nonsense. So the Dark Entry Forest Association, they banned visitors. They have had literally since like 2014. I think they're still like having to like call the police and have them arrested if they're like trespassing, because people still think they can get away with it.
People are so fucking, they have no respect.
And maybe they're good witches, maybe they have a cult, maybe they want to have the vortex to themselves. And whatever the reason, they just don't want the town to be explored any longer. They want nothing to do with this curse. And the Cornwall Historical Society, this is 1, 2, 3, 4 different quotes from them when discussing this curse and how they just don't want it around anymore.
Right.
So they've written this pamphlet, apparently, for if you come to Dudleytown. They have a pamphlet called The True Facts of Dudleytown, and it puts all the rumors to rest. And the Cornwall Historical Society has said, for decades, there's been this perpetuation of misinformation. Go to Dudleytown, they tell you. It's a real ghosty place, but the truth is Dudleytown's a big fraud. If you would like to visit the forested ruins of an old building, or if you would like to visit a stunningly beautiful forest, Mohawk State Forest will satisfy your interests, and Cunningham Tower is full of eerie ambiance if that's what you're looking for.
Aww.
But today's owners of Dudleytown are professional people who live there for privacy and seclusion. They do not welcome tourists or those seeking tales of chilling experiences. Please do not come. There are no ghosts, no spirits, no curse.
Oh, it's like so hard because I get that. Like, I feel like we've been in that position, especially at live shows, when you've covered a topic locally, back when we did like local stories, and then you would say, but please don't like go over there drunkenly after this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we can respect it from afar, like, but the people who own it, like, we have to respect their privacy. And
exactly. And
yeah, that's a hard line.
I'm like kind of let me check. I didn't talk about it in our book, did we?
Which one?
Did Dudleytown? Did I cover
No,
Dudleytown?
I don't believe so. I feel like I
Okay,
would
good.
remember that.
If I didn't put it in there enough, don't actually go unless like you know somebody from there who's willing to invite you in, and also grab a pamphlet from the Cornwall Historical Society.
While you're at it, send me one because I'm so curious about it.
And just sidebar too, if you want to go to damnedConnecticut.com, they do have, if you look at their Dudleytown page, in the comments, a lot of people have talked about some of the spooky stuff that's happened to them. It's a lot of stuff I already mentioned where people have seen glowing green eyes or their cell phones will malfunction. A lot of people say spooky stuff happens, and it could all be coincidence, but it could also be like kind of a, what's it called when enough people have put energy toward it?
Yeah, like, I mean, a tulpa is like a thought form that, yeah.
Anyway, but that's Dudleytown, and I'm sorry it took like an hour and a half to get through that.
No, I mean, I think, let's be real, that was mostly my doing.
No.
Wow, listen, the second you said Dudley, I was on board. This is a story for another day, but at my dad and stepmom's wedding, other way around, my mom and stepdad's wedding, we went to Salamanca, New York, which is my stepdad's hometown, and we stayed at the Dudley Hotel, and that place is creepy. And so when you said Dudley in the beginning, I was like, oh my God, is this the same? It is so
I like how immediately you hear Dudley and you're like, they have to be connected.
I mean, that's what people said about the Dudleys over here and the Dudleys over in England, okay? They made the same kind of stretch. Yeah, it's called the Historic Dudley Hotel. I swear to God, this place was haunted. I'm gonna send you a picture of it because, like, you'll just see. It's like the only hotel in town. And my dad, it's like right by a reservation, so there are a lot of locals who like go to the bar there. And my German grandfather showed up, and after the wedding started buying everybody like buying the whole bar like rounds of shots, and they partied like all night, and I just sat in the corner and drank Shirley Temples and played cards with my friends.
Oh, that's
it's a really fun place, but it's definitely spooky. It's definitely spooky. Yeah.
Well, I will say I just looked up Dudleytown to show you a picture of it, and it's all just essentially, I mean, you've seen the woods, you know.
I have seen that. Yeah.
On Realtor right now, there is a house in Dudleytown that is for sale.
Oh,
and it is, I know. So
How
I'm not
much? How
saying
much?
888.
That's a lot.
It is.
888?
Mm-hmm.
Jesus, that seems like a lot.
Also for only 1,700 square feet.
What?
And
Whoa,
5
look how old this fucking building is, though. When was this built?
1783.
I was going to say, that's a 1700s house, friends. I
It
have a friend.
also in
Oh, sorry.
2017 it sold for like almost half of that. So I think it's just like spiked recently.
We have friends who live in New Hampshire who live in like a 1750s or 60s farmhouse. And they texted me when they bought it and they were like, "Hey, do you think this is haunted?" And we were like, and Blaze said, "I'm just going to step in here before Christine even has to." Like, the answer is obviously, but it looks kind of like this. It's like old-timey barn with like a couple windows. Like, you know that spooky old colonial style
Oh yeah.
house? Yeah, it looks like that.
I mean,
Ooh.
I feel like if you have to ask, is it
I
haunted?
know, I know, I know.
Like, what's making you even ask? You know, like
Oh my
read your gut
God.
feelings.
I'm kind of loving it. I love also that they want this kind of money, but they have no photos. It's like the one
No
photo of the
photos.
outside, and then they're like, just trust us.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. Anytime, even on I go on Zillow a lot, and I go on Zillow truly because it's 3 a.m. and I think
I love Zillow all the time.
I go on Zillow just to pretend that I'm a multimillionaire and can afford whatever I want. And I like to look at like the $30 million mansions or whatever. And some of them still only have one picture, and I'm like, how on earth? Like, how on earth do you? I mean, I'll buy it in
You
an
know why,
imaginary world,
though?
but
Because it's probably not for us fucking looky-loos. Because they're like,
that's
this is
true.
where celebrities live. We're not going to show you the inside of the house and where the keypad is.
You know what's for sale right now though?
Yes, you told me. The Brady Bunch house.
5 mil. That's easy. Easy money. Easy money.
Easy, right? Patreon, I will send you a pin or
Yeah.
something, and it might be crooked and it might have dog hair on it, but
It's just a cool, easy breezy $5 million. And but I saw, obviously I looked through the pictures. It actually did have pictures, and the entire inside also looks like, I mean, it's the exterior and interior of the Brady
if
Bunch.
you were to buy that house, first of all, would you if it were like in your budget?
First of all, I have like $20 million, so of course it's
Right,
on my
so
budget.
my mistake. I'm so
So
sorry.
you know what's so weird is I thought about it and I was like, I don't think I would, for a few reasons. One, because you're already spending $5 million on a house that you can't furnish it because like it's already decorated for you.
That
So
was
like
my question. Yeah, I was curious because I wouldn't either. I wouldn't want it to be like exactly the way it is. Like unless I were some huge Brady Bunch like fanatic, but I'm not.
I think on principle, and like I like the like nostalgia retro kind of vibe.
Yeah.
Like I'm down with how it looks on the inside, but like what would I'm fine with that. But like if I didn't own anything else, I'd be so stoked to go live there, and it's already furnished for me and looks really cool, and it looks like a television
Yeah.
show that I've watched. But since I have a bunch of stuff, like I hope there's just one storage room that I could just put
That's
everything
it.
in.
That's where it's
And think of how much money you have to spend on a 24/7 basis for security,
I
because
was gonna
there's
say
gotta
then you
be
have looky-loos like us.
and it's on like not a major road, but it's off of a major road. Like it's easy to get
Yes.
to. So anyway, no, I wouldn't, but I really wish I had a friend who would, you know.
That would be the ideal. Like you're one party removed, so you can at least enjoy it, but you don't
I'd
have
like
to
to
be
house sit,
responsible
you know.
for it. Yes, yes. That would be delightful.
Anyway, you have to tell me about murder before we go off on Zillow, because I won't shut up.
First of all, I got my water out. Somebody gave this to me, I think at the Cincinnati show, I forget where, but this beautiful, actually, no, it was a different live show, but this beautiful lemon cup, okay, that they
Yeah.
made on their Cricut machine, by the way. And so I rediscovered it recently, and it's my recording cup now. So I apologize, it's lemony, but I'm trying to rehydrate myself.
My recording cup is actually a vase.
A celery vase? Oh,
No,
that's
like
pretty.
a real, not actually a cup. It was in the vase depart. I mean, it's very big.
But it does have a spout.
I think that's to pour not to pour water down my gullet as I do it, but it's I wish you could see it. My whole fist could like go in there.
Is it like for it looks like a pitcher.
Yeah, it's a small pitcher. I found it at World Market and
It
I was
looks
like,
like World Market, by the way, my favorite store.
and I was like, this could be a good cup if they had a
It's the
smaller one.
Texture is really doing it for me. I love
In
that.
a bad way or a good way?
No, best way.
I love it. I think she's
It
so
looks
cute.
so delightful. It's like those Starbucks cups we talked about that have the.
I love her, and because she's got good grip. That's why. But
Listen, I'm a basic bitch with my Stanley cup, and this probably holds warmer water than your giant pitcher, so don't feel bad. Like,
Okay,
this
cool.
is
Thank
meant
you.
to be a cup, and it's outrageous. So I think you're okay.
I was looking for an actual cup version of it in World Market because it was literally in the vases, and I was like, I guess anything can be a cup if you want it to be. So I mean,
that's the attitude that I'm here for.
Yeah.
Okay, so I support you on that.
Anyway, I did quite a lot of talking, and I'm excited for you to regale me, and also I'm excited for Jonathan to leave because I hate this. But please distract me until that's true.
Happily. I'm really excited about this one because our wonderful researcher Molly Ann reached out a few months ago and said, "Have you heard about this?" and sent me this TikTok, and I went down this kind of rabbit hole because I had not heard of it, and it seems like something I should absolutely have heard of, and I cannot wait to tell it to you. This is the eBay stalking scandal.
What? It's giving Craigslist killer.
It is, but in a totally different. I'm
gonna love it. I already know.
You have no idea what's coming. It is
I'm so excited.
a wild ride. So I'm just gonna hop into it. And it's also a relatively recent story. Like, this starts back in the 90s with like the rise of eBay and these e-commerce sites. But the actual crimes took place in 2019. So it's a much more recent story than I at first realized.
Cool.
So, it's such a doozy. Talk about like, this is like the stuff that those HBO documentaries, like 3-parters, are made of. Like the Jared Fogle, this is one of those stories where you're like, what the how have I not heard about this? So I'm sure something's in the works because it was so recent. If not, hit us up, HBO, Netflix, whoever wants to get in on it. Quibi,
Christine wants to be a talking head. Christine wants to be a
I-
talking head.
My dream. Get me a talking head. Come on. Okay. This is the eBay stalking scandal. So, we all know eBay, right? It's famously one of the first e-commerce websites to ever exist. And have you ever heard the kind of urban legend of how eBay was created or founded? Because I hadn't heard it, so don't feel bad if you haven't. But
I feel like someone's told me. I don't remember. I truly don't remember.
I bet we've heard it before. I didn't remember, but apparently there's an old story that the founder of eBay created the site to get rid of his wife's overwhelming Pez dispenser collection, and that's how it started.
Oh, you know where I learned about that from? I wandered myself into a Pez museum one time. And that was one of their fun facts on the wall. Yes, I do know about that.
Okay, well, it's not true, which is why I said it was the urban legend about how it got started.
Well, by the way, the Pez Museum definitely told me all about that. Whoops.
Let's just say they were doing it tongue-in-cheek so that we don't get in trouble. Yeah, it's funny. Obviously, it's a great story, but it's not true. So here's what actually happened. The man who created and launched eBay, his name is Pierre Omidyar, and he was a French-born man living in Silicon Valley in San Jose, and he launched eBay over Labor Day weekend of 1995. Now, over this holiday weekend, while he was at home in San Jose, he was writing code on his personal computer, and he launched a website, which at the time he called Auction Web. And he was just kind of playing around, like, you know, everyone is out on vacation doing the long weekend, and he's at home writing code. And it was all worth it because he created this website called Auction Web, and he described it as a site, quote, dedicated to bringing together buyers and sellers in an honest and open marketplace. The first item up for bid, Pierre posted his old, barely functional laser printer for sale for a whopping $1.
Oh, okay.
And if anyone ever asks you a trivia, what was the first item up for bid on eBay? That is what it was.
Okay.
Fun fact.
Great.
So people actually bid on it. And they're not sure nowadays, like internet historians are not sure if it was just for the novelty of bidding on something, like an auction online. I mean, that's kind of a wild, and it's low stakes, it's $1. And so people started bidding, and it sold to a man in Canada for $14.83. And Pierre was like, cool, this is working. So
it's interesting. Does that mean only like 14 people?
Yeah, it was like a small amount. Or, I don't know how many specifically, but yeah, probably around there. So probably a small number. But, for somebody to start their first website and put one thing up and it's already drawing in, viewers, it just started to work. And so the rest kind of is history. So eBay, as it later became known, quickly gained popularity, and in the late 90s, its founder and staff largely credited the Beanie Baby craze with the massive growth of eBay, which I also found very interesting. It's almost like all of these zeitgeisty phenomenon were like intertwined,
Yeah.
So people joined the site to buy and sell their Beanie Babies, and they would stay for other purchases. And so Pierre's original $14.82 sale turned into his current net worth, which is estimated to be $13 billion.
Whoa.
Right?
Whoa.
Right. And you should see this guy. You should look up Pierre Omidyar in like 1995. Like, he looks just kind of like the dorky, like, computer nerd who's like at home writing code while everyone's at the barbecue.
Look at him.
Right? And now he's a fucking $13 billion high-flying macho man.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's crazy. Talk about like if not rags to riches, but $14 to $13 billion is pretty wild to me.
Holy crap.
So just last year, to give you an idea of how eBay has become one of the leading e-commerce sites in the world still to this very day, just as an idea, last year in 2022, users sold over $70 billion worth of products on eBay.
Wow.
70 billion in just 1 year.
Oof.
Basically, the sheer size of eBay's online market is like unfathomable. Like, it's impossible to comprehend. And of course, with that amount of wealth behind it, there is opportunity for people to, what a shocker, abuse their power.
Yeah, and you said you said 70 billion last year, right?
In 2022. Yep.
Wow,
that's just the amount of money that people sold their items. Like, everyday folks were selling stuff. So that's not to say, I don't know how much the top are making. I don't know what their incomes are like, but it must be out of control. Up being at the top of this kind of a company.
10 billion of it was probably me with Pokemon cards.
It might have been. You could have, you could have bought that whole town of Dudleytown, but no, you had to go buy your Pokemon cards.
I know.
So Ina and David Steiner, this is the main couple at the center of this story. They live in Natick, Massachusetts, which is about 40 minutes outside of Boston. And early in their marriage, so they've been together for 30 years at this point, but earlier in their marriage, they both began working from home together. And I kind of love this because, 30 years ago, you're thinking, like, the internet is very young. It's like the 90s.
We're all just playing pinball.
we're playing pinball. We're playing Minecraft, even though we don't get what it is.
Yeah. You mean Minesweeper?
I mean, did I say Minecraft?
Yeah.
Nowadays, I'm playing Minecraft, have no fucking clue what it is. Just kidding,
Well, what's the difference, really? They're all squares.
What is the difference? It's
They're all
a bunch
cubes.
of squares. We invented Minecraft, you know? So, anyway, I just love the idea that this couple in the 90s was like, let's get into business together, work from home, and work on the internet. Like, when it was so early and
ahead of their time.
Yeah, we're way ahead of their time. And I love that they did it together.
That's precious.
I know. And so the couple, oh wait, I have a photo of them. I meant to send this to you because like right now, because I just was like, these folks, man. Actually, I'm going to send it to the group.
What was their company?
I will tell you momentarily.
Okay. I was gonna say in 2023, if they said, "Oh, we're gonna work from home together," it'd be like, "Yawn, we're all doing that." But
yeah, yawn.
Look at them.
Look at them. We're gonna put this on Instagram, folks. But they are just. This is like later on into their business. But as you can tell, it's a it's an online business where they are kind of in cahoots with these e-commerce sites. So let me give you a little more of a description. So the couple themselves were early fans of eBay and other e-commerce websites, and they were so passionate about the world of online marketplaces that they decided to start a newsletter.
Ooh, okay.
So they launched a news website called E-commerce Bites, as in BYTES, like bites of pieces of e-commerce, not like e-commerce blows, man, not e-commerce bites, you know, but
genius.
Yeah, bites of information.
In 5th grade, I was at a play called Bits and Bytes, and it was about the digital age, and it was a bunch of computer viruses hanging out together. It was
what?
It was clearly a play that was like someone had just written because like computers were all the rage for kids.
I love looking back at those where they were like, wow, they thought they were onto something.
Like it was so topical, Bits and Bytes. And I think like the bad guy was a computer virus, but we were all computer somethings.
What was your role?
Oh, Christine, very foreshadowing. I truly needed propranolol at 10 years old for this because it was one of those plays where you all had to stand on the stage and like step out and say a line and that's it.
Oh God.
And I couldn't imagine the idea of being up there. And so I tried to go to my teacher, which by the way, at 10 years old with like confrontation issues was so brave of me to be like, I can't get up there and say anything. And they went, well, you have to. So, they basically made me the narrator where I had to say the most things.
Oh my God, that's not fair.
It was cruel. It was so fucking cruel. And I thought I was going to fall over and die the entire time. But anyway, Bits and Bytes, but not like it bites you, but more like computer bites.
Yeah, I'm proud of you. So the reports covered all things e-commerce from stocks to sellers' concerns. Ina did the writing and reporting, and David handled the behind-the-scenes business end. They were basically a power couple, just kind of documenting the ins and outs of the e-commerce world. And so they had these subscribers following for like industry news. Like, you know, now how there are newsletters about like podcast news and like acquisitions, and this is what they were writing about, but just in the scope of e-commerce.
Okay, got it.
So in an interview, Ina explained, we cover industry news. So what I do is I follow what's happening and how it impacts sellers. So when major changes on e-commerce websites rolls out, basically sellers could rely on Ina and David for accurate information. Like, oh, what's shifting? What tools are they adding on eBay? What's coming next? Right? Like, it's a really useful tool. And they have 600,000 readers, which to me seems like quite a lot. Most of those are online merchants. So people who are like small businesses and are selling their goods and services and wares on these websites, and rely on Ina and David's website to kind of make sure they are on the right track and up to speed with all the fast-paced changes on these websites like eBay
in the digital era.
Yeah, the digital era, the bits and bytes. So even though 600,000 readers, most of them are online merchants, the Steiners were always aware that there were kind of other high flying folks who were also following these reports because much like the trades for TV, for now podcasting, not only do like kind of the small time like podcasters like us have to follow or like to follow these kinds of things, but the big high ups at companies like, I don't know, I'm trying to think like iHeart or just as an example, like also follow this kind of news.
Sure.
And so they definitely had some big wigs that also followed and subscribed to their newsletter to see what changes were being rolled out on other websites just to keep kind of their finger on the pulse. So eventually, readers started reaching out to Ina with specific issues they were having as sellers on sites like Etsy, Amazon, and eBay. And Ina never ever set out to report anything in bad faith. She wasn't biased against any particular website, but she only wanted to platform these sellers' voices, like the ones that were having problems, to give them space to say back to the companies, like, hey, this isn't working for us. This is my small business.
Sure.
And eBay has done this, that, or the other, and it's hurting my business. So she wanted to make sure they elevated the voices of these small businesses that were selling on these websites.
Love that.
Love it. Otherwise, you know, if a person were to reach out to eBay and say, hey, I'm having a problem with XYZ, that's probably going to get lost in like a, you know, customer service email inbox, and probably nothing's going to get done. So if it's in this like more professional released newsletter that actual bigwigs are reading, maybe they'll take note.
Mm-hmm.
So Ina created a dedicated section of the site for user reports where users could go in and report the issues they were having on specific websites. And she said she wanted it to be a conduit for sellers to tell their problems, tell their issues, and share information. So people took interest. Industry observers and even Wall Street contacted Ina and David sometimes to get the scoop on like these e-commerce giants, because Ina and David knew all the behind the scenes. Like they got intel from all these folks.
Can you imagine just working from home and Wall Street is calling you?
I mean, it's like 1995. You're like, I guess we'll start this fun little blog. And then like suddenly Wall Street's on the phone. Like, what is Amazon doing? We must know. And that's kind of where this goes, Em. So buckle the fuck up, okay? Like, remember, this is a true crime story. It's out of control. Okay, so, and just like, I feel like you would have said something, but you don't know this story, right?
Not at all, no.
Okay, I had not heard of it ever either. So, you and me both. So, I mean, if you think about it, the Steiners were reporting on multi-billion-dollar corporations, and they had like 600,000 followers, a lot of whom were the reason that these companies were billion-dollar companies. They're selling on these websites. They need these people to be loyal to them. And they never really imagined that these multi-billion-dollar companies would feel threatened by their kind of reporting, because it was just like more small-time reporting. Well, I'm sure it was a newsletter.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's no way that they thought there was gonna be like actual credible people watching them, or you know, enthusiasts that are relying solely on their opinion or their work, you know,
who are taking it so seriously. Yeah, exactly. So most of all, the Steiners believe that the sellers on these websites had a right to know about what was going on behind the scenes on these websites that they were using and subsequently like giving money to as a cut every time they sold something. So they felt like this is the right of the people to know what these billion-dollar corporations are up to. So this went on very smoothly for about 2 decades. Okay. And they were living the dream, like had a very loyal following. And that all stopped on August 8th, 2019.
Whoa, it's that recent?
It's that fucking recent.
I've been still imagining them in like
the picture
1990s. Yeah. Like, and they've been doing, first of all, they must be, I'm sure they already were eventually, but in my mind, I still thought of them as like sitting at home in their den together versus like having a full ass company. They have to have like a full ass company now, right?
Yeah, I don't know how big the company is. I think it's still relatively small.
Okay.
And I don't know whether they still work out of their home. I'm not sure. I
But
believe they do.
they're still heavily relied on for trends and things like
Yes.
that. Wow,
Yes.
good for them.
I know. I was like so impressed because I'm like, you start a business in the 90s based solely on the internet. Like, you have no idea where that's going to go.
I was gonna say based solely on the internet when it was so new. It's not
When
like now you started.
you couldn't predict any trends. Yeah.
You were just like, this is my best guess of something that everyone is unsure of. So like, I almost feel like back then you had a better chance at Wall Street paying attention to you because there was only one of you, not like
Right.
30,000 TikTokers exactly like you.
That's so true. And it's like, how do they even, like, I bet at Wall Street and those people were probably like, wait, how do they get all this aggregated information in one place? You know, like websites are a new thing. Like, usually you'd have to read the trades, read the paper. But like, I just went on the website, and it's funny because the website, this is not meant to be offensive, but it really does look kind of like an old time. Like, it looks like it has not changed that much. Like, it's very simple. It's still called E-commerce Bites blog.
I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah.
E-commerce
Bites with a Y.
Yeah, wow.
Right? Okay.
It's nothing to write home about.
Okay, but then you scroll down, it says Etsy adds weekends to processing time. So for sellers, it's like, oh, this is so crucial to know.
That's wild.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. You know what's shocking though is like when they first started doing this and paying attention to all the online companies out there that were doing sales, there was like maybe 20. And now, like, how do you keep up with Etsy?
Oh my
how do you keep up
God.
with Redbubble? How do you keep up with
So you're
Costco
right, they
gift
must
cards,
have a
Amazon
team.
online? Yeah.
Yeah, and PayPal and all this. Like, I mean, there's new eBay glitch. This is from last week. Like, so people who sell and make a living on these websites like rely on this site to make sure they are getting the information. If there's a glitch, if there's like a holiday delay that they weren't aware about.
They really must have at least like one person at each major company.
I hope so. I wonder if they have like a team or some page on here. I don't know, but it's pretty wild because it looks so old school. But it does what it says it does. Does what it says on the tin. You know, like they are helping the people who are merchants on these sites and need guidance. And
wow, and they also have all of the. Just scrolling down, they have the full archives. You can see everything from at least 2012.
Wow, that's pretty fucking cool.
Wow. Sorry,
Yes.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. This is just crazy.
No. And so to think like they've been doing this for almost 20 years in 2019. So that's only like half up to 2012. That means like they'd been doing it for about 10 years earlier than that. So in any case, everything has been going great for them, right? They're building this. They're relied on by these big wigs. They're an important part of this whole machine they've got going online until August 8th, 2019. That morning, Ina and David woke up to some strange emails in their inbox. They had unknowingly been signed up for hundreds of newsletters that they had never even heard of. Some of these included the Satanic Temple, Irritable Bowel Syndrome News. Oh wait, no, that's just mine. I'm just kidding. I am actually.
That is both.
Well.
They're definitely both in your email right now.
Yeah. And also, I'm mad at whoever thought that would be like a funny joke because I'm like, you know what, fuck off. Don't make fun of people with IBD and IBS.
I do like your joke though. That was.
Thank you. Sin City Fetish Night, the Communist Party, and dozens of others. So apparently somebody had signed them up for all these newsletters overnight.
Okay.
And like there is a form of harassment where people will sign businesses' public emails up to newsletters as like just a form of like blasting spamming them. And so, you know, at the end of the day, I think I would have taken this the same way. I would have been like, ugh, somebody's just like spamming us, putting our email in. Because our email is obviously like easily accessible. So, a few changes in email settings, they were able to filter that to spam, and they thought, well, that's the end of that. Unfortunately, it was not, because these emails were only the beginning of a massive, terrifying terror campaign against the Steiner family.
Oh, no. Okay.
So, the next thing that happened after these emails was they started getting outright threats on Twitter. Anonymous accounts were sending them tweets like, shut up or else. Many of the messages were more detailed, and I watched a 60 Minutes episode on this, and they couldn't put in kind of the more upsetting and graphic stuff, but there were definitely a lot of swear words and descriptions of violence against Ina and David. The account was called Top Seller 13. And I used, because I'm me, I used the Wayback Machine because I was like, well, I got to find this account, right?
Obviously.
And since it's no longer in existence, I used the Wayback Machine, and I found a few results. Basically, they were campaigning against them and trying to like rally people against e-commerce bites, saying that e-commerce bites, Ina and David, were hurting small businesses by pushing people to Amazon. And one of the tweets said, guess I have to pay them a visit, like just outright threat. And then anytime anybody critiqued eBay, they'd respond, watch your mouth, or like, I'll come after you. Like bizarro threats. And now David and Ina are like totally reeling. They're like, wait, whoa, this has been like kind of a mom and pop thing for 2 decades. And like, what happened? 3 days later, they received a voicemail about an order that had arrived at their home. And the voicemail said they couldn't fulfill the order because it was for a wet specimen.
Ew. What?
David called back and asked what a wet specimen even is.
Yeah.
It was a pig fetus.
Oh my God.
Someone had tried to have a pig fetus delivered to their home.
How do you even send that in the mail?
Great question. Apparently you can't because it's a wet specimen.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. It's okay.
No, but apparently somebody tried. And Ina at this point said her heart sank because this meant someone knew their home address. You know, that's
sure.
when it starts to feel like it's not just cyberbullying or cyber stalking. Like this is real. So that's when she also obviously put everything together and realized the emails and tweets weren't just like some random troll. Someone was actually going out of their way to try and get them. And it must have been somebody who was pissed with whatever Ina was writing on the website.
Mm-hmm.
The Steiners were desperate for answers, but they couldn't imagine who would go to such great lengths to harass them. So they decided this is the first time that they involved the police at this point. They wanted to be taken seriously, and they knew they might not be. So the officer arrived and took the report, and I want to say, luckily/unluckily, a package had been delivered as the police officer was there taking their report. So
okay.
he was like, you open that and I'll wait right here so I can see. Because of course, like of all times you want somebody there, a third party, like it's to witness whatever's about to happen. She opens the box. At first, all she can see is flesh and hair.
Okay.
She shrieks. Turns out it's a pig mask, which is interesting because you brought up a pig mask earlier. This is specifically the pig mask from the movie Saw, which the villain wears as he tortures his victims to death.
Mm-hmm.
And guess where else they had seen that mask? Well, it happened to be the profile picture of none other than Top Seller 13.
Oh, fuck.
So, ding, ding, ding. They are sure now that this is who is harassing them. Things only escalated. Their neighbors started getting pornography mailed to their address, but had David Steiner's name on them. So
to make it look bad.
Yeah, to make it look like it got sent to the wrong address, but he was ordering like teen porn and all this like, fucked up stuff. The mail harassment continued. They received boxes of live cockroaches, live spiders.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Someone even anonymously posted the Steiners' home address all over social media and on Craigslist, advertising events at their home like yard sales and sex parties to the public.
Oh my God.
I mean, this is just like,
This is very the bad version of what Anonymous did.
yes, it is a similar concept. Like somebody is,
I mean, there's people out there who do like that. Remember, like swatting? Did you ever hear about that?
oh God, yes.
That's
yes.
so scary.
It's
That's so
fucked
scary.
up. It's so fucked up. And so it's already like really, really scary, but it gets even scarier because a few days later, a package arrived addressed specifically to David, not Ina this time. And it was a book. The book was called Grief Diaries: Surviving Loss of a Spouse. Yeah.
Oh my God.
And a few days after that, an expensive and elaborate funeral wreath arrived on their doorstep.
Oh my God.
Basically, this was an elaborate, blatant death threat against Ina, who was the author of all of these blog posts. So in that 60-minute special, David told reporter Sharon Alfonsi, I was terrified I was going to lose her. And this is actually the part where he gets the most emotional because it obviously was like so jarring. So the Steiners became so afraid that they actually started sleeping in separate rooms at night, like hoping if somebody broke in, at least one of them would be in a different spot to like trip up the
to like
intruder.
save each other.
Yeah, and like call
God.
911. Over the weeks, a rental van with New York plates cased their house, and they saw it pass by several times in one day, had no idea who it was. They installed security cameras, but they didn't have a full alarm system installed yet, so they put a cart with baking trays on it in front of the door so that, which is like such a Christine move at a hotel, like so I'll hear it if somebody's trying to break in. And then one night at 4:30 a.m., worst time for anything to happen, a man showed up at the Steiners' house, and poor David was already awake because he was too stressed to sleep. So he saw this man approaching the door, and terrified, they screamed at him and called the police. But unfortunately, it turned out to be a pizza delivery driver. But somebody had ordered pizza to their house in the middle of the night just to fuck with them. So it was these same people, but they were like, oh, what? You don't want a little pizza at 4:30 in the morning? Like, they're just outright harassing these people. Then David began to notice he was being followed around town, once by a van and then later by a car. And he actually managed to get a photo of one of the license plates. Go David. And that is when authorities could finally make a break in this case.
Thank God.
I know. Because I feel like
Christine, you're stressing me the fuck out.
I know, these never end well.
Out.
I'm so sweaty. These never end well. They always get, but we got it. We've got a break. Detective John Haswell took the lead on the case, and he ran the license plate through the system, finding out it was a car rental. So he contacted the rental car place and found out that it had been rented by someone named Veronica Zay, and she had rented that vehicle during the time period that David was being followed. So Detective Haswell hadn't actually spoken to the Steiners directly yet. He had only heard the reports. So he called them and he said, hey, do you know anyone by this name, Veronica? And they said, no, we've never heard of this person before. But before the police could even like run any check on who this person was, Ina just Googled the name and found out, oh, that's weird. Veronica Zay is an executive at eBay.
What? That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's fucking crazy. Okay.
She said, I cannot describe how flabbergasted we were. Was it eBay that did this to us? I mean, it was inconceivable. So a sergeant on the case tracked the rental car to the Ritz-Carlton Hotel where Veronica was staying in Boston. And he called her from the lobby and he said, I fully expected her to come down, hand me a business card and say, I'm from eBay. We're doing an investigation on all this. So we drove past the house. But Veronica told the sergeant she had a conference call and would have to wait. She never came down. And eventually he had to leave. And Veronica then pieced out of town before ever talking to the police. So red flag. Meanwhile, Detective Haswell discovered that the funeral wreath had actually been purchased with a gift card at a grocery store only 8 miles from eBay headquarters in Silicon Valley. Security photos showed Veronica purchasing the gift card, so Detective Haswell turned the case over to the FBI.
Wow.
Now, this investigation lasted 10 months, and then the U.S. attorney in Massachusetts made an announcement. He had held a press conference announcing that they were indicting 6 eBay employees and a contractor in a conspiracy to commit cyber stalking case, as well as conspiracy to tamper with witnesses.
So there was 7 of them?
Yes.
Why? Why did they hate them so much? Also, so wait, for those 10 months of investigation, there was still 10 months of further bullying, right?
You know, I don't know. It seemed almost like when they started to kind of put the
Sniff
pieces
around.
together that maybe they drew back.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm not totally positive. That's a great question, though. The U.S. attorney said at a press conference, the complaint alleges that the victims were targeted because eBay executives were unhappy with the coverage of eBay on the couple's website. In 2019, eBay's then CEO, so this is where the gargoyles come out because you're going to need to track these people. They're a lot of white dudes with boring names. Okay. So eBay's then CEO, Devin Wenig, sent his colleagues a link to an article that Ina had written about his paycheck. She wrote that he made more than 152 times the salary of a typical eBay employee.
First of all, good fucking for her.
Yeah, she's basically calling out.
She's whistleblowing.
Yes, and it's like not even like a secret, you know? She's just fucking pointing at it and saying,
yeah,
hey, just FYI.
And by the way, before you go any further, leave it to this fucking privileged man who, like, instead of doing something about being called out, he's just going to go send you death threats for the rest of your life. Are you fucking kidding me?
Literally, yes. So you're exactly onto it because he sent this article, right, to a group of high-powered executives at eBay, one of whom was called Steve Weimer. So there's Wenig, who's the CEO, and Weimer, who is the CCO, the Chief Communications Officer.
And Steiner, who was
there probably will be a Steiner eventually. Wait, is there a Steiner?
Isn't Ida and her husband, aren't they Steiners?
Oh my God, they're literally the Steiners. Sorry, you're 100% right. I thought you meant like in this eBay CEO. No. You're right. The Steiners, it's very confusing. So there's a Weimer, a Steiner. The Steiners are the good guys. So Steve Weimer, who is the CCO of eBay, replied in this chat, "We are going to crush this lady."
What a fucking sick man. And by the way, this is just a reminder to everybody that, like, people with like heavy narcissism or like issues like that, they are known to like end up in CEO roles and like like high managerial roles. So of course his first thought is, I'll destroy them, versus
for saying the truth out loud.
For saying the truth that hurt your little ego for a second.
Yes, precisely. And made you look a little bit bad, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So Steve Weimer responds, "We're going to crush this lady." CEO Devin Wenig, who had originally sent this article to the group, wrote, "Take her down."
Ugh, gross. I just can't stand this.
Are you kidding me? It's crazy. So on August 1st, 2019, Ina wrote a post about a lawsuit eBay had filed against Amazon. And although it was just a couple paragraphs and contained like only a light note of skepticism about how CEO Devin Wenig was handling this merger, this acquisition, or this lawsuit, I'm sorry, even though there was just like a light note of skepticism, the CEO was irate. And 33 minutes after the e-commerce Bites article went up, he texted Mr. Weimer again, the CCO. He said, "If you are ever going to take her down, now is the time." And Mr. Weimer responded, "On it."
Ew.
He then texted another eBay executive named James Baugh, and texted him the following: "Hatred is a sin. I am very sinful."
Barf.
I
Wow.
know,
You
right?
know
It's
he
embarrassing.
fucking thought about that the night before, and he went to bed thinking about it like, this is gonna fucking kill tomorrow.
I
This is
know.
gonna
And
rock him.
by the way, these bullets that I have here are specifically pulled from the New York Times article that went into really great depth about this story. And it says, "Hatred is a sin," wrote Mr. Weimer, the son and grandson of Baptist pastors. Quote,
Okay.
"I am very sinful." So
I love whoever
that
wrote this.
little sprinkle in there. Yeah. So
Like
Mr. Boss signaled that he was ready to escalate the situation. And he responded, "Amen. I want her done. She is a biased troll who needs to get burned down."
Said the lover of Jesus.
Yeah. Said God's own little lamb. So Mr. Wenig was going to Italy on sabbatical, I guess, as CEOs do, for the month of August. So e-commerce bites, he said, needed to be taken care of before he returned from his sabbatical.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, they took this plan and decided to plot it out very, very specifically. So this harassment campaign began, of course, with a movie. Mr. Boss showed clips from a 1988 teen comedy called Johnny Be Good, in which, and this is a direct quote from the New York Times, in which a villainous football coach must deal with a host of pests arriving at his house simultaneously. A delivery guy with hundreds of dollars of unwanted pizza, singing and dancing Hare Krishnas and their elephant, a rodent exterminator, a male stripper. Mr. Baugh asked the analysts for inspiration. One of them suggested sending the Steiners a coffin. So
oh my God.
This is basically where they roped in a group of contractors and other people high up at the eBay team to say, we need to get some details down and we need to get this rolling stat.
So it just sounds like the entire executive board of eBay was just in a fun little
just like
game
fucking
together,
chilling with it. They were finally bonding. You know, none of those icebreakers worked. So
but
they
this
were
was
like,
team building for sure.
this team built
This
them.
is so sick. And also, like, sadly, like, think of the mailman who kept bringing this stuff to them. Who was like,
yeah.
first it was a pig fetus, and now it's a coffin, and like, oh my God, like,
and
or
like
whatever
a
it was.
funeral wreath, and
Yeah.
spiders. I'd be pissed. I'd be like, what if one of those got out?
Oh my God. And like, because they're like in charge of eBay, I guess they could get whatever they wanted from eBay, right? So
exactly. Oh, great point. So the security chief of eBay made it clear that eBay's leadership supported taking action, and they forwarded a message by Mr. Weimer in which he declared that Miss Steiner and this other Twitter user named Fidomaster, who I also looked up on the Wayback Machine, and was like this really small time just guy who had some complaints about eBay and just tweeted about them. And I guess he was, even though he's like this kind of small fry like Twitter user, he also got targeted. And so basically Mr. Weimer declared that e-commerce bites and Fidomaster have seemingly dedicated their lives to erroneously trashing us.
Sure.
I genuinely believe these people are acting out of malice, and anything we can do to solve it must be explored. Whatever it takes. Jesus.
God, give a bunch of narcissistic men an executive board and see what they do.
Yikes.
And then see what they do once they get berated slightly by one random measly Twitter user.
Yeah, well,
and they just all hell breaks loose.
Yeah, well, then we are in 2023 because that's kind of how all boards work. According to prosecutors, this is again from the New York Times, Mr. Baugh and members of the security team devised a convoluted strategy to secretly harass the Steiners and then offer eBay's assistance in stopping the attacks. So
to bribe them of like, only if you say nice things about me? Is that what's happening?
No, sort of like, oh my gosh, you're being attacked. We'll help you. And then win the Steiners' confidence and manipulate them into writing nice things about eBay now that they've saved them from the villain. So they called it the White Knight strategy. And
foul.
their idea was like, let's harass the shit out of them and then rescue them so that they love us. It's crazy. So
Wow.
it's wild. One of the tweets that there were a group of Twitter users who again are all deleted, but thank God for reporters who've reported on this and the Wayback Machine. One of the tweets said, "I guess I'm going to have to get your attention another way, bitch."
Ooh.
And like they were just getting really crazy, aggressive, misspelled. And then speaking of that exact same Twitter user, remember when that pig mask arrived that was like from Saw? So immediately after that pig mask arrived, they received a tweet and it said, "Do I have your attention now?"
What?
Yes. Very, very disturbing. And you can also see what they were trying to frame it as. So that same user wrote, "When you hurt our business," and this is all spelled wrong, "when you hurt our business, you hurt our families. People will do anything to protect family." So they're trying to pretend like they're these small-time eBay users who were so deeply offended because...
And stupid because they can't spell, by the way.
And stupid, right? Isn't that so fucking embarrassing that they're pretending to be like the everyday person because they can't spell?
Yeah.
It's embarrassing. And meanwhile, Mr. Weimer, the fucking CCO, on his personal Twitter account, he was tweeting Fred Rogers quotes left and right.
Barf.
He said that movie that also made me cry about Mr. Rogers that I watched on the plane made him cry. And he once retweeted Mr. Rogers' line, "If there's anything that bothers me, it's one person demeaning another." But inside eBay, he was fucking goading all of this on. He was like ringleading this shit. In fact, he texted Mr. Baugh on August 11th, "I want to see ashes." Yep.
God, Mr. Rogers would not like that.
No. And then Mr. Baugh shared the message with his deputy, David Harville, adding, "I've been ordered to find and destroy."
Okay, like you're a transformer. Shut
Seriously?
the fuck up.
Are they just like, oh, wow, the most exciting thing that's ever happened? I guess
they turned this into like an adventure side quest of
Yes.
like where, and then
They're
at the end they get to look
delusional.
like heroes. So
Exactly, because they get to save the day. It's delusional. So Jim set up a meeting with his security staff in California at eBay's headquarters where he put a map of Natick, Massachusetts on the wall, like Criminal Minds-esque. And they hatched a plan on how to enact this terror campaign. Then they flew out this whole security team to Boston to start this war on the Steiners. In the investigation and confessions, more shocking activities came to light. Apparently, 2 of these employees of eBay had attempted to put a GPS tracker on the Steiners' car, but fortunately their garage was locked at the time, so they weren't able to get in. Ultimately, 7 people on the security team at eBay pled guilty to stalking and harassing Ina and David Steiner, including a former police captain and a former nanny.
Wow.
It was just like an array of people that worked on this same office, and they all got corralled into it, and they all said, okay.
How do you even corral that many people? I can understand, like, hey, we're doing like an office prank, haha, but like not send a coffin. Like what?
Hey, those older people who write that little blog in Natick, Massachusetts? Let's fly out there and fucking send them a dead pig fetus. What?
They hurt my feelings one time, so now I have to hurt their feelings for the rest of time.
Crazy. Good thing I make 100 million bajillion more dollars than you, so I can afford to fly everybody out there.
Yeah, the irony of like this guy being all like butthurt because someone said he's a multimillionaire, like what, and like now he's going to use that multimillionaire money to destroy them, to
destroy this mom and pop business. Yeah, it's great. So the U.S. attorney said what was unique about this case is that you had relatively senior management at a Fortune 500 company who thought it was a good idea to launch what can only be described as a campaign of terror targeting a middle-aged couple in Natick, Massachusetts. Like, it sounds batshit crazy. Like,
what a stupid side hustle.
Like, what an insane hobby to develop.
how is this not like a Law and Order episode where
It
you go,
sounds
there's
like
no way
it.
this is real?
So Jim Baugh was sentenced to 5 years in prison, and Veronica was sentenced to a year of home confinement and probation. Former director of global resiliency, David Harville, was sentenced to 2 years in prison. Philip Cook, former senior manager of security operations for eBay's global security team, was also sentenced to 18 months in prison for his involvement, followed by 12 months of house arrest and 3 years of supervised release. Stephanie Pop, former senior manager of global intelligence, was sentenced to 2 years in prison. Stephanie Stockwell, former manager of eBay's global intelligence center, was sentenced to 2 years probation.
And let's just. Oh, sorry. Keep going. Sorry.
eBay apologized to the Steiners and said after an internal investigation, they had to let go all guilty employees. Yeah, no shit. The company.
Right. Oh, poor them.
Oh, I'm so sorry. We had to let them go. The company said it had no knowledge that the harassment had been happening and that it disapproved of the employees' actions. But again, like, who's disapproving if the CEO and the executives were the ringleaders of this whole operation? You know, it's like, we disapproved. Who?
And also, like, this is where I want to say again, like, talk about privilege and like wealth or class privilege of like, some of them just got probation for that because they could afford the lawyers to get them out of this. But that's like, the harassing that they did was so gross. I can't, I just wish they could have.
It gets worse. In the end, eBay's former CEO, Devin Wenig, got away with 0 consequences.
There it is.
Although eBay says the stalking scandal was a consideration in his resignation, he was still allowed to resign in 2019 with a $57 million exit package.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that sounds exactly like America for me.
Yep.
That sounds right.
0% shocking. People were at a loss. The Steiners obviously filed a civil case against eBay and the former executives, and Jim Baugh's attorney released a memo which said, yes, Mr. Baugh is the most senior eBay employee the government chose to prosecute and bears an extra measure of responsibility for his supervisory role, but stopping there ignores the broader reality of what happened. Mr. Baugh faced intense, relentless pressure from multiple executives who have evaded criminal responsibility, including the CEO, Devin Wenig, to do something, anything about the threat. According to one of the attorneys that represented the Steiners in their civil case, Steve Weimer, the CCO, the communications officer, he's the one who wrote I Want to See Ashes, that guy. He escaped charges as well because he destroyed evidence of his involvement. Allegedly, a message went out in the company that a criminal investigation had started into eBay's operations, and employees were to preserve all evidence, including emails and text messages. So naturally, he wiped everything, and really the only thing we had left was I Want to See Ashes, and it just wasn't enough to prosecute in court, and so he got away with it. And not only that, he now runs the Boys and Girls Club of Silicon Valley. So good for him.
Wow. Say it with me, Kelsa Praise.
Kelsa fucking praise. He is with America's young and brightest stars, you know, teaching them the ways of late stage capitalism.
You know, all the ways, all the ones that just didn't have to, they had 0 consequences. You know, they went to the bar that night and not just bragged, but like probably complained at the inconvenience at all.
I was about to say complained. I'm
like,
sure they bitched about it.
They have no idea, no awareness of how like lucky and privileged they even are.
I'm supposed to go on sabbatical to Italy next week. Vomit. He, of course, claims his texts were mischaracterized. Okay. Rosemary said, that's obstruction of justice. That's the attorney. If I did that, I'd be sitting in a jail cell somewhere right now.
Yeah.
But he did it, and no luck. As for the remaining messages Steve sent, like, I want to see ashes, authorities say it's just not enough to prosecute because, as the U.S. attorney said, like, sometimes people talk in these kind of hyperbolic ways. So unless he said something very specific that we can pin on him, like, it's just not going to go anywhere and it's not worth the time. So, understandably, they were frustrated, but it's almost like their hands are tied on that one. So the civil suit that the Steiners filed is still ongoing, and they can't understand really why they were targeted in the first place. Ina's whole goal was like to help eBay's customers engage with the site and sell more. And she thinks that should be a good thing for the company, and like that they would want to be on her side, you know?
Right.
And she told the Boston Globe, the reason we're suing is we don't want it to happen to anybody else. It has to be known
Oh,
what was done to us.
yeah.
And, you know, there was this other guy that also got roped into this. That was that Phytomaster guy I mentioned,
Mhm.
who complained because his wife sold on, I don't know if it was Pez dispensers, but sold on eBay. So occasionally he would tweet like, you know, how unfair some of the rules were against sellers. And so the fucking global security team, if they found out, they had a whole folder on this guy. He's just like some random Twitter user.
Mm.
And they have like a whole folder because he's just tweeting like, this is an unfair rule.
That's
It's
so fucked up.
creepy and crazy.
Mm.
Oh, this is the best. Mr. Baugh also was convinced at one point, and this is from the New York Times, that there was a sinister conspiracy relationship between the Steiners and Phytomaster. In reality, these were two separate entities, had nothing to do with each other. Like, what are the odds that two people were both critiquing eBay at the same time?
I was gonna say, believe it or not, two people just might not like you.
Not
Like,
exactly.
shocker.
Exactly.
Shocker,
Exactly.
I know.
And so they believed they were actively conspiring to damage eBay. And he even indulged a theory that Phytomaster was the Steiner's secret alter ego. And so this is how he tested it. Okay. 8 days after the take her down message from Mr. Wenig, a member of the security team flew across the country and drove to the Steiner's home on a quiet street, and on their fence scrawled or spray painted the word Phytomaster. Like, what?
What?
And it was just, the New York Times called it both ridiculous and threatening. Like, it's like,
I feel like these people are in today's world, 4 years later, they're in QAnon. I just have a hunch.
Oh my God, you're probably 100% right. Like, these conspiracies make less sense than some of the QAnon ones you've told me. Like, this is insane.
The only people in QAnon in today's world, I think, would come up with that master fucking plan of spray paint Phytomaster on a fence.
And that'll do it. Do
Yeah,
what?
what?
Nobody thought that far ahead.
What?
And nobody really ever found out who Phytomaster actually was. It was not the Steiners. So for what it's worth, we know that much. So according to the New York Times, in mid-2019, Phytomaster actually received an unsolicited message on Twitter from a user calling herself Marissa and appearing to be about 25. She claimed to be a former eBay employee who possessed extremely damaging videos of executives misbehaving, and she wanted Phytomaster to pass them along to the Steiners. Now, she was trying to get him to say, oh, okay, I am the Steiners. You know, like she was trying to get him to admit, but instead
Wow.
what he said was, or that he knew them. Like, either I am the Steiners, or like, yeah, I'm meeting with them every Thursday at our fire ritual in the basement where we have skulls and we taunt eBay. Like, I don't know what they were hoping, but they were like hoping that he would admit some like nefarious scheme with the Steiners. But instead he said, oh, I'm pretty sure her website's on her email address, so you can just use that.
Oh,
And they were like, well, okay. And Marissa said, hey, I have a better idea. Why don't I leave the videos on a thumb drive at a hotel in the city of your choice to try and draw him there to like see if it was the Steiners or like get his identity. And his response was, why don't you get a lawyer?
Truly, yeah.
Yeah. And so that is the story. That is the story of the eBay stalking scandal that apparently none of us knew about.
That's wow.
It's
well
only
done, Christine.
A couple years ago. I'm like, what the F is going on here?
I can't believe, it's so hard to wrap my head around that it was only a few years ago, because that feels like something that should have happened in like,
while we were recording the
or something.
podcast. It is, and I feel like it's something that would have, I mean, maybe we were tagged and I just didn't have the time to like look into it, but wow.
Crazy.
That's wild.
Oh, wow. Well done, Christine. Oh my gosh.
Well, thank you, and well done, Molly Ann, for finding this on TikTok and bringing it to my attention and letting
Which
me
is
go.
wild because if it was created by TikTok, it was probably a Gen Zer who knew, but we didn't know. How'd that happen?
They were definitely clips of the 60-minute special
Okay.
is what the TikTok was. So I don't know how that works. I don't know how people go about that, but it was kind of like an abridged version, and I was like, I must know more. And so Molly helped so much with the notes, and then I got to do my like Wayback Machine deep dive and finally use my New York Times subscription.
Very excited for you
to get some more deets. But yeah, that was a wild one. I mean, to mail someone a box of spiders and find out it's the CEO of eBay is just
like how
batshit crazy. It like makes no sense. Anyway.
Wow, that was a juicy one. That one kept me on my seat from beginning to end.
I was excited to tell you that one. There no murders in this one, so that's
I love when there's no murders. I love when it's a bunch of privileged pieces of shit. I love when I love when they win at the end. Well, they don't totally win because no one really got the justice that they needed to be serving, but I like that everyone was safe and fine, and it was topical because I sure love online shopping. So
it was topical because M likes eBay.
Well, I like online shopping. It doesn't matter where it's from. But now that I've got their website, the e-commerce, I'm gonna absolutely look through that and just see like what it's all about. That's so fun.
When I saw the picture of the guy Weimer, who now is the head of the Boys and Girls Club I was like,
chills.
Are you fucking kidding with me? Like, this is the most cliche Succession style bullshit. Like, it's just sad. It's just sad.
It's incredibly sad.
Like, that's the guy who's going to be teaching America's future about ethics and
some parents are probably stoked about it because he's a real tough
he's
one.
Successful.
He's been through so much though.
Don't get him wrong. Don't get that twisted. He made quite a bit of money, so whatever that's worth. Anyway.
Boy. Well,
so thank you for bearing with me. Only one potty break, so you know what?
I hope everyone had fun.
Me too.
That's it.
That's it. If you have suggestions, we never say this, but if you have suggestions for stories on our website, and that's why we drink.com, you can submit your story ideas. And we kind of gather those and over time, go through and pick ones that strike a fancy. So if you see anything on TikTok that's like, what the F? Let us know. We would love to know about it. You can either tag us in it, or send it to us, or just email in. But we'd love to hear what you guys want to hear as well.
Thank you, everyone. And if you, I don't know, if you have made it this far, thank you, because it's a very long episode, and we'll see you next week with probably just as long of an episode because we can't keep it together.
We never stop talking. That's
why
we
drink.
That was beautiful.